Super Television. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101, The Night of Genocide. After Rukaichi disappeared, the dead snake on the ground suddenly trembled a few times and came back to life. Its body surface was shining with green light, and it swam forward like flowing water. Even the hidden weapons that penetrated its body and stuck in the floor could not stop it. The venomous snake slowly crawled to the dead Ukiah clan member, and then moved forward again. When it came to the head of the corpse, the venomous snake stood up and opened its mouth. It aimed at the eyes of the corpse and pounced down. "Boss, I collected another pair of eyes. Now there are 30 pairs in total." "Well, it's okay. How about the ninjutsu scrolls?" "I have collected a lot of miscellaneous things, but I don't know what kind of stuff I have collected." "Well, withdraw. Now is not the time to expose yourself." "Okay, boss." Li Jing sat on the tatami and stopped talking. The venomous snake that devoured the eyes of the dead body was an individual controlled by nanoworms. Li Jing arranged for the Sky Eye to send out hundreds of them. But because they could only work secretly, the results achieved by these nano-venomous snakes were very limited. But this is not bad. Without bloodshed, almost everything they wanted was obtained successfully. There was nothing left for Konoha. After more than an hour, when all the venomous snakes sent out returned, Li Jing began to collect all the spoils. Most of these Sharingans were 1 Magatama or 2 Magatama, and some were even not opened at all. As for the 3 Magatama Sharingan, not even one was collected. "Huh?" Li Jing was stunned. A venomous snake stood up and looked straight at him. Its eyes seemed to reveal the indifference of humans. "What is this?" The space changed, and Li Jing stood up suddenly. The surroundings were no longer the original house, but a gray-black dry forest. The forest seemed to be alive, with layers of dead branches swaying and folding, and Li Jing looked up at the sky. A huge 3 Magatama Sharingan in the sky was looking at him coldly. "Akaichi, no matter who you are, pay the price for what you have done." The voice was not answering Li Jing, but a signal. When the voice disappeared, the dead wood forest around Li Jing suddenly exploded. Swish, swish tilde. The dead branches danced wildly, like a devil. Li Jing was about to dodge, but he found that a dead tree had appeared behind him at some point. The dead branches were untangled, and Li Jing was trapped without a place to stand. "Huh?" Li Jing was shocked again. His method of taking out the weapon from the space failed. Was it because of the illusion? Li Jing calmed down and chose to turn a blind eye to the dead branches that had wrapped around him. Illusion, as the name suggests, is an illusion, but illusions can also kill people. This technique can cause great mental trauma to the recipient, and in terms of feeling, touch, hearing, vision, and even smell, it can make false brain instructions that are indistinguishable from the real thing, and then further make people appear brain dead, thereby obliterating a person's spiritual will and killing their enemies without bloodshed. The collection of illusions he had bought before was still fresh in his mind. Li Jing hinted to himself, making his subconscious mind believe that he was sleeping and dreaming. "No matter how advanced your illusion is, I am like the breeze blowing over the mountains. As long as there is no substantial damage, it is not easy to destroy your will that has been concentrated like the sea." Maybe a few hours have passed, but it seems like just a moment of trance. When Li Jing opened his eyes again, he returned to the tatami room before. As for the dead trees and forests, it was like an illusion that had never appeared at all. Li Jing exhaled, and his alertness suddenly increased a lot. "Akaichi, it's really not simple. Just through a long-distance illusion, he can make himself defend with all his strength. What will happen if they really meet? And what will be the result of facing the highest level of illusion, Tsukuyomi?" In this unexpected fight, Li Jing has already lost, and lost miserably. What unscathed, what escaped unscathed, are all bullshit. The previous way of dealing with illusions was the most shameless way. What is the use of the constant in the face of change? This is because there are no enemies around. If you deal with illusions like this on the battlefield, I really don't know how many times you will die. The 30 pairs of Sharingan were saved, and the ninjutsu scroll was directly put into the tattoo space. Now is not the time to look at it carefully. After doing all this, Li Jing meditated and practiced on the spot, waiting for time. Tonight is destined not to be peaceful. The Uchiha clan was slaughtered, leaving only the 8-year-old Uchiha Sasuke alive. The murderer of the clan, Uchiha Chi, quietly left Konoha after performing the ultimate illusion Tsukumi on his younger brother Sasuke. It was dawn, and Li Jing slowly opened his eyes. The practice of Taiyan Shenju is very difficult. The reason why he could reach the first level of concentrated spirit like the sea within a year was that he had a higher brain utilization rate than others. Otherwise, ordinary people might not be able to get started in their lifetime. Li Jing stood up and pretended to be going out for business. After going through several levels of review by Konoha ninjas, he left Konoha safely under the pretext of going out to look for relatives. In peacetime, the review of civilians was not too strict. The face Li Jing used had complete files, so the procedures for going out were safe. This was also thanks to the demise of the Uchiha clan. The police force was suddenly empty, and there was no Byakugan from the Hyuga family among the ninjas temporarily deployed. Otherwise, Li Jing's chakra would definitely be discovered and exposed. Walking along the way, Li Jing stopped far away from Konoha. He casually took out a scroll in the space. Unlock. Bang! The smoke disappeared, replaced by a meter-long poisonous snake. Li Jing stretched out his left index finger, and a faint red light appeared. Whoosh! The red rays enveloped the venomous snake, and the venomous snake suddenly grew larger and expanded after several tremors. Hiss! In just a few seconds, the meter-long venomous snake had grown to more than 30 meters long. Li Jing stepped on his feet and flew to stand on the head of the venomous snake. The venomous snake, controlled by the nano-worm, swam on its own and flew straight to the front. Rushing around, whether it was a forest or a rock, the huge venomous snake chose to crush it all the way. Li Jing frowned slightly. The speed was fast enough, but the movement was not small. Sky, bring up the map. Okay, boss. Beep! A three-dimensional holographic image map popped up on the watch. This was a map drawn by Sky through sonic radar and magnetic field induction. Not only the landforms and environment, but also the number, image, and energy reaction of organisms at a very long distance can be detected. The Land of Fire is not small, and Konoha is almost in the center of the Land of Fire. The venomous snake went east all the way and headed straight for the Land of Waves on the sea. Chapter 102 Billion Reward. P.S. If you have Sanjian tickets, please support me. This book is losing more and more money. Thank you. Sheepfold number 170.756.165. A few days later, Li Jing settled down in a town near the sea. After capturing and interrogating several wandering ninjas, Li Jing found the specific location of the Hunter Guild. These wandering ninjas had no source of income, and they had all been bounty hunters to a greater or lesser extent. However, the cruel competition was too extreme. When you were hunting others, you also had a great chance of being killed. Therefore, the number of ninjas who died in the bounty hunting industry every year was simply countless. Li Jing did plan to be a bounty hunter, not for money, but because he urgently needed a series of battles to promote the evolution of the cell control ability. Otherwise, this ability might be stuck at the peak of the second level for life. Click. The underground entrance of a public toilet was opened, and Li Jing walked down the stairs. This place was very dark, with only a few faint flames. No matter how you look at it, it looks like a secret base of a cult organization. Squeak! After pushing open another wooden door, Li Jing entered a place that looked like a bar or a pawn shop. The space was not big, and there were only 7 or 8 people inside. Boy, can anyone introduce me? The person who spoke was an old man. Although his hair was half white, his voice was still full of confidence, and his eyes were extremely sharp. He looked like a ninja with good skills. No, Li Jing shook his head. Why? Do you need someone to introduce you to a place like this? It's more convenient to have someone to introduce you, but since there's no one, forget it. What are you doing here? Looking for work, or a bounty? Bounty. The old man looked at Li Jing deeply again, then glanced at the wandering ninjas around him, and said, "Come with me. Business is good recently, let's go to the back." No need. Li Jing did not move his feet. took out a small transparent bag from his arms, and threw it to the half-white-haired old man. "The bounty is these gems worth 1 billion, and the target person." Li Jing smiled slightly and pointed his finger at himself. "It's me." "What? 1 billion? Is it true?" "This kid is a lunatic." The eyes of the 6 or 7 ninjas around him looked at Li Jing and changed again and again, either revealing greedy desires or laughing at him as if he were a fool. The old man squeezed the bag in his hand. With years of experience, he could feel that there was a high probability that these gems were real. "Young man, is this your reward?" Li Jing turned around, raised his left hand and waved it, saying, "The time limit is 1 year. If I don't die, I will come to retrieve the gems. Don't let me down too much." "Boy, you are too arrogant. Don't talk about 1 year. I want your life now. Don't even think about leaving alive today." 1 billion? "I think you are looking for death. Die." A strong wind came from behind, and Li Jing's mouth curled up slightly with a sneer. This is the result he wanted. He can't become a Buddha without being crazy. The comfortable life is not suitable for him. Swish tilde dong dong tilde. Dodging several shurikens, Li Jing moved sideways to avoid a sharp knife. With a light snap, he caught a ninja's kick and pinched his fingers hard. Ka tilde. Li Jing threw away the broken bones in his hand and punched out, hitting a ninja's chin. Crack puff tilde. Teeth, broken bones, blood, splattered everywhere. The ninja had just landed when he had already breathed his last breath, becoming a freshly baked corpse. This. What? Several ninjas were not fools. They all retreated and flashed out of the battle radiation range. One of them was disabled and one died as soon as they fought. The person in front of them was obviously not at the same level as themselves. "Okay." Li Jing shook the blood off his hand, and after his cold eyes swept across the whole scene, he smiled slightly. "Don't worry. I don't need your lives. I will live nearby for a long time in the future. Everyone is welcome to take this task. So, I'll leave it to you in the future." Turning around, waving his hand again, Li Jing walked out of the underground money exchange. There was silence in the money exchange. Everyone present felt a little unsure of what to say. What was going on? Was he crazy? Spending 1 billion to reward his own life? How much of a suicidal person would have to be to come up with such a plan? "Mr. Yuta, this. Okay, this is not something you can participate in. Go away." The half-white-haired old man waved his hand, signaling these wandering ninjas to leave quickly. After several wandering ninjas left with their heads turned back, the old man frowned, turned around and walked into the darkness behind. This matter was no longer under his control, and the best way to deal with it was to report it to the top of the organization. At this time, Li Jing was walking around the street like nothing had happened, and he returned to his residence in a very comfortable way. This residence was a courtyard that had been bought by Li Jing. In addition to the owner Li Jing, there were also several servants who cooked and cleaned. Putting a bounty on oneself was not a manifestation of arrogance and invincibility, but that he himself did not understand the ninja rules of this time and space. To be a bounty hunter, intelligence alone was a big problem, and it took too much time to find an opponent. If you can make your opponent come to you automatically, that would be the most direct and effective way. If you are too concerned about risks, you might as well stay at home and live a simple life on Earth, being a small local tyrant or a prodigal son. Li Jing returned to the room and sat on the tatami thinking about things. His own chakra attributes are only fire and thunder, and he does not understand the nature and form of ninjutsu changes. This body of pseudo-shadow level chakra is all piled up by working behind closed doors. If you don't experience some brutal battles, you will never become a real strong man. It was only a few days, and the news from the Hunters Guild almost attracted the bounty hunters of the entire ninja world. Wherever the news came, there was an uproar. 1 billion. Even the shadows of the major ninja villages are not all worth this price. The price of a well-known elite ninja in the ninja world is only tens of millions of taels. The major ninja villages issued bounties through wanted traitorous ninjas, and traitorous ninjas can also use bounty hunters to offer bounties for the heads of the major ninja villages. But generally speaking, the price of the heads will not differ too much. As for the one worth 1 billion, there are not many people in the entire ninja world who are worth this amount, and it is unheard of that they offer a bounty for themselves. No matter what the outside world says, Li Jing has begun a more rigorous training at this time. Most of the scrolls brought back by the venomous snake on the night of the Uchiha clan extermination are still very useful. Chapter 103, Rebel Ninja Attack. The ninjutsu in it is nothing. The main thing is that some of the scrolls are the experience of training, and the methods and means of Uchiha to cultivate the next generation of talents. These things are what Li Jing lacks the most at this time. A systematic and planned training is naturally better than one without it, not to mention the means of training talents for a large family like Uchiha. From these scrolls, Li Jing can learn a lot of useful things. Li Jing, who was practicing in the woods, was moved in his heart, and then smiled slightly. It came quite fast. It seems that $1 billion is really tempting. I just don't know what kind of stuff this time the opponent will be. Swish swish swish, shurikens flew all over the sky, directly blocking all of Li Jing's retreat routes and covering him. Li Jing, who has a well-developed dynamic vision, stretched out his hands and caught the shurikens that shot quickly in his palms one by one with Tai-Kai soft power. He shook his hands and threw several shurikens, with a momentum that was stronger, faster and more powerful than before, and counterattacked. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh tilde boom, boom tilde, shurikens all shot into the trees, each reaching more than 3 inches deep. The leaves rustled twice, and 2 men in gray ninja uniforms jumped out one after another and rushed straight towards Li Jing. Are they rebels from the Hidden Mist village? Li Jing sneered slightly, shaking his hand and taking out the tang sword he used before. These two were obviously not high-level ninjas, so they didn't need to use their full strength. And looking at their forehead guards with 4 dots and 1 horizontal line, they knew they were rebels from the Hidden Mist village in the Land of Water. Dang dang, the knives collided twice, and the 2 rebel ninjas were all repelled more than 10 meters. The 2 looked at each other, and moved their bodies, one in front and one behind, to surround Li Jing. Too weak. If you want to kill me, show some real skills. Haha. The 2 rebel ninjas did not answer, but shouted together, and each of them formed a seal. Water escape, water flow technique. Tired escape, ground walking. Tilde ZZ tilde. One side is water, the other side is thunder. Is it a combination of ninjutsu? Unfortunately, the power was too weak. Li Jing stood there, too lazy to move, until the water flowed over his feet, accompanied by a flash of lightning. Li Jing did not dodge at all. What? Impossible? The 2 rebel ninjas stared at each other in disbelief. The flash of lightning on Li Jing's body was enough to prove that he was the real body, and he did not dodge this ninjutsu attack. But what was the smile at the corner of his mouth? Mockery? Or irony? Too weak. I have disappointed you twice. Remember not to do such a dangerous job in your next life. Otherwise tilde swish tilde. The speed was too fast. The visual nerves of a rebel ninja were still stuck in the previous image. He only felt a slight pain in his waist, and then everything in front of him was dark, and he no longer had any consciousness. Bang tilde. It's easy to die without a complete corpse. Half of the corpse fell to the ground, and Li Jing's words had just finished, while the other rebel ninja's eyes widened, his pupils shrank sharply, and he couldn't say a word because of the suppression. Swish swish. With a horizontal cut of a knife, the enemy, who was dozens of meters away before, came close in the blink of an eye. The only thing the rebel ninja could do was to widen his eyes and firmly remember the hateful smile at the corner of the enemy's mouth. The skull fell to the ground, and the body without the brain also fell to the ground with a thud. Li Jing shook off the blood on the tang sword with his hand, smiled slightly, and said, "Why don't you come out? Do you want me to invite you in person?" Pa pa pa. The sound of clapping rang out, and a middle-aged man in black clothes jumped down from the tree trunk nearby. The man was about 30 years old and was considered to be in the prime of life. A person who can spend 1 billion to buy his own head would not be that simple. Now it seems that it is true. Oh, so you want to quit? No, no, no. The middle-aged man waved his hand, smiled slightly, and said, "Although you have good ability, it is not enough for me to retreat without a fight. 10 billion, it is enough for me to live happily for a long time." Li Jing made a sword flower, put the sword into the sheath, and said, "I am afraid that you will want it if you live. But you will spend it if you don't." The middle-aged man's eyes turned cold, and his expression turned ferocious when facing Li Jing. "Stop talking nonsense. Boy, you can't leave alive today." "Oh, I know." "Then come on." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several shurikens were shot out, followed by the sprint of the middle-aged ninja. His speed was extremely fast, and the speed was the same as the flying shurikens, and there was still room for maneuver. Shua dang dang dang. The tang sword was unsheathed, knocking away several hidden weapons, and the middle-aged ninja attacked again, with a sharp kunai. Dang, the kunai collided with the tang sword, leaving a gap. The middle-aged ninja narrowed his eyes, and then he kneed the enemy, trying to force him back. HMPH. Li Jing fought hard, using 10 tons of force, raising his leg to fight back. Bang, the two knees collided, smoke rose, and the enemy disappeared completely. Li Jing's pupils shrank. Was it the clone that came out at the beginning? Where is the real body? Buzz. Li Jing lowered his head to dodge, and a short sword with a faint blue light cut across. The blade of the short sword trembled, making a slight buzzing sound. This is a chakra weapon that ordinary ninjas can't touch at all. Swish, swish. One knife after another, layer after layer, the chakra short knife covered Li Jing's whole body, and each move went straight to the vital parts. It seemed that Li Jing could not fight back, and even if he was not careful, he would be severely injured and dismembered. Suddenly, Li Jing sneered slightly, leaned back to avoid the short knife, and the tang sword in his hand cut out, aiming at the middle-aged ninja's knife-holding arm. Humphrey. With a cold snort, the middle-aged man retracted his arm and swept his feet. Li Jing's body continued to lean back, and when he raised his legs, he bypassed the enemy's attack and kicked him in the chest. Bang, the middle-aged man raised his arms to resist, but was still kicked back 7 or 8 meters by this heavy kick. Sliding all the way, the middle-aged ninja stopped, gritted his teeth and shook his paralyzed and weak arms. What a great strength! The enemy's physical skills were obviously very high. The middle-aged man did not choose to attack at close range, but formed a seal on the spot. Water escape. Exploding water wave. Apostrophe puff. A continuous stream of water spit out from his mouth, and then merged into a huge water ball to cover Li Jing. But when the middle-aged man was making a seal, Li Jing was also making a seal, and he used one hand. Fire style. Great fireball technique. The large fireball with a diameter of 7 or 8 meters suddenly collided with the water ball, and white smoke rose up. The ninjutsu of both sides was constantly consuming each other. The middle-aged man was at least a figure above the level of a jonin. His combat experience was not comparable to Li Jing. Li Jing could only follow the rhythm of the opponent to find a move to fight and resolve. But this was exactly what Li Jing wanted. This was the result he wanted. The ninjutsu was consumed, and the surroundings were filled with water vapor. The two of them took a breath at the same time, not because of the chakra consumption of the ninjutsu, but because of the energy consumption of the fight. Chapter 104. Advancement to Level 3. The battle started again, and the situation became more and more intense. The middle-aged ninja was very good at sneak attacks in the mist, while Li Jing was mostly on the defensive, and only fought back once or twice. Haha. Boy, your chakra has been almost used up. I, Daimo Yuriki, am a ninja who survived the 3 wars. You can be proud of yourself for being able to hold on to me for such a long time. Li Jing stood there without any intention of answering. As for chakra, he had the control of the second level cells, and the speed of chakra recovery was almost the same as the amount used in the battle. In a sense, this can also be regarded as pseudo-infinite chakra. Want to kill yourself? It's impossible. And since I have already used a pseudo-shadow chakra equivalent, it is obvious that the enemy's chakra is also running out. It seems that it is time to end it. Daimo Yuriki? Then let's make the final attack. The middle-aged ninja's expression turned cold, and then the two began to make hand seals at the same time. Water escape. Great waterfall technique. Apostrophe fire escape. Great fireball technique. Apostrophe what? Or the great fireball? Daimo Yuriki's mind moved. Use the great fireball technique to resist the great waterfall technique? Is it because his chakra is exhausted and he has to do this, or is there another intention? The arrow is on the string and has to be shot. Daimo Yuriki's chakra surges continuously until the last bit is exhausted, increasing the huge ninjutsu water flow to a height of 7 or 8 meters. Wow! The waterfall is coming like a sea tide, and the great fireball in front of it is like a ridiculous little doll, which is simply vulnerable and can be extinguished in a minute. Buzz! Li Jing's left index finger is shining with a trace of red light, and the red light suddenly breaks through the small hole at the tip of the finger, forming a straight ray that covers the great fireball. Whoosh! As if blowing a balloon, the fireball that was out of Li Jing's control suddenly swelled dozens of times, directly covering the waterfall in front of it, forming a huge monster with a diameter of several hundred meters. This. Daimyo Yuri's eyes widened, his mind was shaken, and he was so shocked by the scene that he couldn't say a word. He could only watch his ninjutsu waterfall being baked away by a few hisses, turning into water vapor and evaporating. What on earth was going on? What was going on? The huge fireball rushed towards him, and Daimyo Yuri just wanted to use the instant body technique to dodge, but found that the chakra in his body had already been exhausted. Whoosh! Boom! A short scream followed by a violent explosion. Although the expansion ray can amplify chakra and flames, it is extremely unstable. The huge fireball exploded, and even Kyoto in the distance was affected. As if a nuclear bomb exploded, a huge mushroom cloud rose into the sky, and the shockwave spread out. The violent force uprooted the surrounding trees and swept them away. When the smoke and dust settled, there was nothing within a radius of several thousand meters. Even the charred wood no longer existed. Akaya Madara's Haohuomi. She and Haohuomi are not so powerful, right? Li Jing dodged and spat out the flying dirt, curled his lips and cursed secretly. This ninjutsu is powerful, but it's a pity that it's too difficult to control. If it goes wrong, not only will he not be able to kill the enemy, but he will be killed first. The rays of expansion and contraction are still aimed at physical existence, matter or life individuals, which can be enlarged or reduced, but only the energy system will become extremely unstable after the form is changed, which is easy to cause destructive explosions and collapses that hurt others and oneself. This is a manifestation of structural instability. Daimyo Yuriki was blown to pieces, and even the chakra weapon was unknown. Li Jing didn't want to look for it anymore. He simply packed up and turned to leave the forest. Fighting is the best cradle for cultivating strong people. Only through constant fighting can one effectively discover one's own shortcomings, and then improve them, forming one's own unique fighting system, mode and rhythm. More than half a year has passed in a flash, and Li Jing has experienced hundreds of fights, big and small, almost every day, without rest. Sometimes there will be continuous fighting for several days and nights. Bounty hunters tempted by money are one after another, without interruption, and with a muffled groan, severe pain continued to attack. Li Jing, who was hiding in a cave, clenched his teeth, and cold sweat continued to slide from his forehead. This is not an injury, but a belated advancement of superpowers. Cell control has finally reached the point of evolving to the third level. The superpower that could have blocked the pain nerves is now rolling violently like a volcanic eruption, and every cell seems to have become an independent individual. Active, metamorphosis, evolution, replication. I don't know how long it took. The pain slowly disappeared. Li Jing felt as if he was in warm spring water, and every cell in his body was jumping and rejoicing, conveying its own unique information. Li Jing opened his eyes, as if he had just had a dream, and all the cells in his body seemed to come alive. But after realizing a series of information in his mind, Li Jing clenched his fists and felt the explosive power contained in his body, and then he realized that the previous scene was not a dream, nor an illusion. Alive does not mean having independent thoughts, but a kind of liveliness and agility. After checking the information transmitted between cells, Li Jing also had a general understanding of the third-level cell control. The unique ability of the second level is simulation. The third-level superpower evolved from learning and mimicry. Mimicry, as the name suggests, is to include simulation, and can use the abilities of any living individual and various dead objects. Li Jing stretched out his left hand, and his mind moved, and the whole arm began to crystallize transparently. Diamond mimicry. Learning is similar to the ability to devour and copy, but there are some differences. Li Jing took out a vessel containing the Sharingan in the tattoo space. He poured out the eyeball and held it in his palm. The palm of his hand automatically cracked and swallowed the eyeball. Time passed slowly. Under the operation of the cells in the body, the gene chain of the Sharingan had been cracked. Another crack opened in the palm of his hand and spit out some waste residue. Learning, not just copying. After the cells in Li Jing's body copied the structure of the Sharingan, they would automatically learn the strengths and abilities contained in it, and then develop and utilize them. Learn and copy these strengths and abilities, and apply them to themselves. Li Jing closed his eyes and then opened them again. His eyes had already changed into the Sharingan mode of the single Magatama state. This was not the limit. Li Jing controlled the operation of the cells. With sufficient energy supply, the cells began to crack the genes of the Sharingan at a deeper level. 1 trillion cells kept calculating, simulating, eliminating, and selecting, and the cycle continued. Not long after, a second black Magatama appeared in Li Jing's single Magatama eye. Chapter 105 The Immortal Duo. After taking a breath, Li Jing closed his eyes and pressed his forehead. This ability to crack genes is very powerful, but it consumes a lot of energy. It is not easy to crack to the level of kaleidoscope in a short period of time. Ring, ring, ring tilde. The sky eye alarm sounded. Huh? Is it coming again? It's just right to use you to test my new ability. Li Jing clenched his fists, felt the amount of chakra in his body that exceeded the level of cage, and a slight sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Then he stood up and walked out of the cave and came to the outside. Black background with red clouds, brocade robes. One person covered his face with green pupils, and the other had silver hair, about 14 or 15 years old, carrying a red three-edged weapon. Li Jing recognized this weapon. The name is Bloody March Scythe, and the owner of the weapon and his companions are also the immortal duo of Akatsuki organization. Angle, hidden. Well, you are really good at hiding. You got away with it last time, but I won't let you go this time. Ha ha ha. Tilde. Li Jing sneered slightly. A few days ago, he ran away after a fight with Kikuzo and the other man, but that was because they had been fighting for too long. Even if he had enough chakra, his energy consumption was too serious. If he stayed and fought hard, it would be inconsistent with his idea of fighting to support fighting. What he wanted was to improve himself through fighting, not to risk his life. 1 billion taels. Kid, do you have a lot of money? Kikuzo's slightly hoarse and rough voice came out, and the green pupils looking at Li Jing seemed to be suddenly greener. That's right. Even I, a believer who regards money as waste paper, can't stand it. This bastard actually spent so much money to buy his own life. But it's just right. Uncle Fijuan has long been fed up with working with an old man like you. This time, with 10 billion, the damned should also let people rest, right? 10 billion is needed, and working is also needed. Can't you consider the considerations of me who is in charge of finances? Your clothes, your weapons, your food and daily necessities. Which one is not costing money? I don't care about these, if you ask me. Li Jing suddenly felt so stupid. The fighting spirit accumulated before was consumed by 99% out of thin air. Is the enemy too strong? Or is the second year of middle school the symbol of invincibility? Otherwise, how can you defeat the enemy without fighting? This is comparable to Sun Tzu's Art of War. Kikuzo and Fijuan chatted on their own, treating Li Jing as heir or the 10 billion bills that were within reach. Li Jing's eyelids twitched, and his left hand automatically formed a seal in his sleeve. Thunder escape Thunderblade. Apostrophe raising his right hand, thousands of lightnings gathered and merged into a giant lightning blade several feet long. The blue blade was full of flashing lightning. Li Jing's eyes turned cold, and he charged down with power. Swish boom tilde. The ground broke. The soil splashed. The trees collapsed, and the cracks reached a distance of 100 meters. After nearly a year of continuous fighting, Li Jing had already reorganized what he had learned several times, and this lightning escape ninjutsu was the first and simplest move that Li Jing created. There are 3 seals, and the length of time to charge is directly related to the size of the power. Although it is not perfect, the lowest power is also A level. Ahem tilde. Huden raised his hand to fan the flying dirt, and jumped down from a tree with a sneer on his face, and Kikuzo followed closely and joined him. and both of them were unharmed. Boy, I hate being interrupted the most. Anyone who dares to do so will die, and you are no exception. Swish Fduan drew out his March sickle, and was obviously aroused by Li Jing's attack. Li Jing hooked his finger nonchalantly, and Fduan's anger became even stronger. He stepped on the ground and flew up, rushing straight towards Li Jing. The Tang sword was unsheathed, facing the young Fduan. Li Jing had no intention of using his trump card. He shook his hand to meet it, and confronted Fduan's March sickle head-on. Dang! A harsh metal sound was accompanied by a series of sparks. Fduan hit harder and harder, and the swords were continuous, layer upon layer, endless. Ahohaha! Fduan laughed loudly. His face was ferocious, and he ignored his own protection. He just wanted to get the blood of the enemy to perform the lofty ritual of faith. HMPH. Li Jing sneered as his strength gradually increased, doubling, and doubling again. Dang dang dang! Buzz buzz buzz! Whether it was the Tang sword or the March sickle, every collision was accompanied by a huge sound and tremor. Fduan's face was extremely ugly. He gritted his teeth and was pushed back dozens of steps by Li Jing's series of fierce attacks. Even his hands, which were not afraid of any injuries, were trembling under the huge force. I'm going to kill you. Fduan was about to fight back, but Li Jing sneered and doubled his strength again. With the third level of self-control and the ability of mimicry, Li Jing's own strength was more than dozens or hundreds of tons. Dang! Whoosh! Boom! Fduan was directly knocked out dozens of meters away, rushing through the woods, drawing a straight line. Crack! The trees fell down, and the destructive force was so amazing that it made Hiden's body look like a cannonball. Kakazu, who was watching the show, narrowed his eyes at this time. Things seemed to be getting more and more interesting. Boy, I underestimated you, but don't think it's so easy to get rid of that annoying guy. Crack! As if to verify Kakazu's words, the fallen trees were pushed away, and the dirty Hiden stood up with a sneer on his face. Except for his messy clothes and hairstyle, he didn't even have any injuries on his body. Humphrey, Li Jing didn't care. This Hiden should have joined the Akatsuki organization not long ago. Except for his immortality and curse, which were a bit interesting, the rest was not worth mentioning. Even the chakra, the current Hiden, would be considered a special Jonin level. Dang! Boom! Li Jing knocked Hiden away again, and he only used a few points of his whole body's strength. With a third level supernatural power and shadow level chakra, the current Li Jing was not a match for the young Hiden. Aren't you going to make a move, Kakazu? Oh, Kakazu was stunned. Do you know me? Li Jing shook his head and smiled, without giving a direct answer, and said, I can give you 10 billion, 100 billion, or even more. I wonder if you can do something for me? Oh, it seems that you know me very well. Kakazu's voice was flat, but his shining eyes looked at Li Jing, and the more he looked, the more he felt that it was a huge treasure. I can get these by killing you, and your head is very valuable. You are very confident in yourself. What a pity. It will definitely not be me who dies. Li Jing swung the sharp knife, and was a little unhappy with Kakazu's eyes that looked at a dead object. In the Akatsuki organization, except for the leaders Nagato and Obito, and Akayochi, Li Jing now has a great chance of winning against anyone else. Chapter 106: The Road to Power. Asshole, I'm going to kill you. Enough, little brat. You're no match for him. You old bastard. What did you say? I will. Enough, or I'll kill you. You. Kakazu's eyes turned cold, and Hiden turned around and chopped at a tree like a punching bag. Kakazu didn't care at all, and then turned his head and looked at Li Jing coldly. Boy, what's your name? Li Jing was about to answer, but suddenly remembered a name in Detective Conan and blurted out, Kigaku. Shin. Kigaku? Not a bad last name. Okay, I know your name, although I may not remember it. But it's time to exchange your body for money. Li Jing's eyes turned cold. He didn't care about the code name, but the second half of Kakazu's sentence. Obviously, when he said 10 billion and 100 billion, Kakazu thought he was joking. Swish! Kakazu's speed was too fast. In the blink of an eye, he was already at Li Jing's side. He kicked sideways, and the violent gust of wind went straight to Li Jing's head. Bang! Li Jing raised his arm to resist, but was still swept away by a huge force. He slid for more than 10 meters. Kakazu's speed increased again and followed Li Jing's side. Bang 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 tilde. There were several more attacks. Kakazu had the earth attribute, and his control over the nature of chakra was far beyond that of ordinary people. Every punch and kick of his was full of hardness and power. Li Jing's supernatural power was activated, and his hands and legs were all crystallized into diamonds. He fought Kakazu head-on. Physical skills against physical skills. Dang 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 tilde. The two people's fists and feet intersected, and a series of metallic sounds were made. Kakazu narrowed his eyes, and his hands did not stop. The attack became more compact and swift. Li Jing was also unambiguous. The Tang sword had been put away long ago. Fighting is the best way to verify oneself. With continuous sparring, one can keep moving forward on this road to becoming a strong man. Never retreat. Hey, old man, are you exhausted? Haven't you eaten? It takes so long to deal with a bastard. Are you? Shut up. Kakazu interrupted the chattering Fijuan with cold words, but he intensified his attack on Li Jing. The two fought and destroyed all the way. The huge attack force made a deep pit when it landed on the ground, and the trees were broken at the roots when it hit them. Boom tilde. Kakazu jumped several times to leave Li Jing's attack range. Li Jing kicked him on the spot, leaving cracks and sinking several meters. Smoke and dust rose up. Kakazu was dozens of meters away from Li Jing. He had no intention of attacking again. He frowned slightly, and his eyes changing again and again when he looked at Li Jing. There was no forehead protector, no information, and even the surname of the name was unheard of. I have never heard of it. Who is this kid? Old man, what are you doing? Didn't you see that bastard is still alive and kicking, making people feel uncomfortable? If you don't make a move, I will not be polite. Kakazu seemed not to hear anything, and treated Fijuan as a piece of air. He stared at Li Jing with sharp eyes. Judging from the momentum of a person, the guy in front of him is not a simple opponent. Squeak. The clothes were torn and thrown aside by the owner. Hey, old man, there is no need to fight so hard so soon, right? Fijuan was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Kakazu just simply tested his opponent and then made such a big move. Is the opponent too strong? But it seems that it is not that strong yet. Kaka tilde on Kakazu's exposed back. The four demon masks struggled together. In just a few breaths, the four masks broke through the crisscrossing suture marks and jumped out of the owner's body. Like four balls of black ink, the demon masks fell to the ground and changed. In the blink of an eye, they formed four masked monsters of different shapes. Li Jing stood in the distance and watched coldly. Kakazu's ability was really speechless. His and Hiden's abilities were somewhat out of the scope of ninjutsu. One was cursed with immortality, and the other was possessed by a monster, and it was a top-level tentacle monster. Kakazu formed seals with both hands, and the two monsters moved together and rushed towards Li Jing at a very fast speed. Fire escape head hard work. Wind escape suppress harm. The wind howled, the fire burned, and after the two were combined into one, the power was doubled. Is this a combination ninjutsu? Li Jing cursed inwardly, and his hands had already formed seals. Secret technique thunder and fire reversal. Li Jing held both hands in the air. One hand was lightning, the other hand was fire, and the nature changes of the two different attributes of chakra merged into one, forming a meter-long electric fireball. The fireball was bright and dark, and the color kept changing between yellow and blue. This was obviously an unstable factor. Li Jing frowned slightly. This was a ninjutsu that had not been fully developed. If it were not for his almost 100% control over the cells, he would never dare to use this move. Whoosh till the wind and fire, Kakazu's combined ninjutsu, rushed down and covered his face. The violent sound made it difficult to tell whether it was the sound of a hurricane or the sound of a burning flame. This time the attack range was too wide, and it was extremely difficult to avoid it. Li Jing's expression turned cold, and the lightning fireball in his hand was thrown out. Whoosh boom tilde. A violent explosion directly affected Kakazu's combined ninjutsu. The forest within a radius of several thousand meters seemed to have returned from hell and collapsed. Boom tilde crack, crack, crack tilde. The flames burned, the lightning flashed, the wind whistled, and everything was shattered and destroyed, without any life. Smoke and dust rose up, and Li Jing, Kakazu, and Hidden left the explosion site almost at the same time. Li Jing looked at Kikuzo and the other man from a distance and frowned slightly. He was at a disadvantage. Flame had no effect on flame, and his own wind attribute was suppressed by the wind attribute. In a ninjutsu duel, if one did not have an overwhelming advantage, the defeated party would definitely lose. At this time, there was almost no need to fight. It was not that Kikuzo and Hidden could not be killed, but even if they were dealt with great effort, they would only attract the attention of the Akatsuki organization behind them too early. Li Jing turned around and wanted to leave, but unfortunately, things did not go as he wished. Kikuzo's monster approached Li Jing again, and this time four of them acted together. Li Jing's expression turned cold, and when he stretched out his hand, the yin-yang fan sword in this space automatically grasped in his hand. Whoosh tilde boom tilde. Li Jing dodged a series of fireballs and wind blades. The four monsters opened their mouths and spit out attacks while wandering. Li Jing turned sideways and moved quickly between the monsters. Swish, the fan opened, the positive side lit up, and Li Jing fanned it hard. A stream of red yang fire burst out, and in the blink of an eye it had expanded to 100 meters, covering the two black monsters. As soon as it came into contact, the yang fire that could melt everything had already covered the monsters' entire bodies. The monsters' dark bodies immediately began to melt at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the demon mask that represented Kikuzo's heart was no exception. In just a few breaths, the two monsters were completely devoured by the yang fire, and even the surrounding ground was melted and crystallized, sinking several meters deep. Chapter 107. First meeting with Naruto. Kikuzo in the distance frowned, controlling the remaining two monsters to retreat and defend. The situation in front of him was too strange, and he could not be careless at all. HMPH. Li Jing closed his fan, and the red fire on the ground automatically extinguished, leaving only the glass crystal ground with wisps of green smoke. Go back and tell Pain that I will go to fight him sooner or later. Bang! As soon as the voice fell, Li Jing's figure disappeared. Kikuzo's brows were even more frowned, and Fijuan on the side also opened his mouth, not knowing where to start. Hey, old man, what does that guy mean? Challenge the leader of Akatsuki? I don't know whether to challenge the leader or not. I only know that guy means that we are not qualified enough. What? Fijuan's expression suddenly changed, and then he cursed. How could I be unqualified? Damn it, it's simply unforgivable. The next time I meet that bastard, I will definitely pull out his intestines and perform the ceremony again. Kikuzo didn't answer with a cold face. The origin of the guy before was too mysterious. Akatsuki didn't have any information about this person at all, and this person obviously knew a lot of internal information about Akatsuki. So, who is this guy? A month passed again. With a bounty on himself, Li Jing took on many bounty hunter tasks and began to really get in touch with intelligence and integrate into the rules of the entire ninja world. The ability to control the third-level cells has yet to be discovered, but the ability of learning alone is also very useful. After capturing several ninjas, Li Jing cracked their water, earth, and wind attribute genes one by one, absorbed and utilized them. And now he also gathered the 5 elements and had complete attributes. Developing ninjutsu and controlling the changes in the nature of attributes are both extremely time-consuming and long-term tasks. Li Jing plans to obtain a few things first, and then retreat to practice. The first stop is the original place where he came, Konoha. Changing his appearance again and returning to Konoha, everything here seemed unchanged. The demise of the Uchiha clan seemed to have no impact on Konoha. A year had passed since the night of the genocide. It was estimated that apart from Sasuke, who was still in school, who could remember the misery and hatred of the night, only Li Jing, an unrelated outsider, could still remember the indifference and sadness of Uchiha Ichi that night. Bang! Ouch! It hurts tilde bastard. Little brother, are you okay? Li Jing smiled and pulled up the yellow-haired child who had fallen to the ground. The child was about 8 or 9 years old, with yellow clothes and yellow hair, and a few marks on his face that looked like a beard. Ah, uncle, don't you recognize me? The yellow-haired child was surprised. While rubbing his butt, He imagined how fast and in what posture the uncle in front of him would run away after seeing his appearance clearly. "I know you. Your name is Naruto, right?" Li Jing smiled, but Naruto's eyes widened as if he had seen a ghost. After just a few seconds, Naruto seemed to choke. "Well, I'm Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto." Naruto introduced himself seriously. He grinned and said, "Uncle, I'm the man who will become Hokage in the future." Li Jing stretched out his hand and rubbed Naruto's hair, saying, "Well, it's not easy to become a Hokage, Naruto. You have to work hard." As an encouragement to you, and as an apology for bumping into you just now, Uncle will treat you to a meal. "Really, Uncle? Well, what do you want to eat?" Li Jing nodded. "Ramen, ramen. I want to eat my favorite Kairaku ramen." "Okay." Li Jing pulled the excited Naruto and walked towards Kairaku ramen. Naruto jumped and talked all the way, and Li Jing just smiled and nodded in agreement. Suddenly, a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Surveillance?" They came pretty fast. Li Jing pulled Naruto and continued walking without caring. The action of knocking Naruto down was intentional. As for the ninja who was secretly monitoring him, Li Jing didn't care at all. "Welcome, Uncle. I want pork chop flavored ramen. Add onions, sauce and marinated eggs." Naruto sat on the stool without hesitation and opened his mouth to ask for the signature dishes he had longed for. Today was his lucky day, and he had to eat all he could. Li Jing smiled and nodded at Naruto, who was looking at him, and asked for the same ramen from a Kairaku boss, and then sat down and waited at the boss's invitation. It didn't take long. Under Naruto's urging, 2 bowls of hot ramen were already on the table. "I want to start." Naruto rubbed his chopsticks, and began to eat ramen with a big smile on his face. Li Jing also smiled slightly. Naruto, the protagonist, was indeed very contagious. He seemed to be a ray of sunshine that drove away the darkness, bright, warm, and lively, but not dazzling. The ramen tasted really good. Li Jing ate 1 bowl, while Naruto ate 3. After the 2 paid the bill and left, Naruto reluctantly said goodbye to Li Jing and turned to leave, returning to the cold, lonely, and empty home again. Naruto had left, but the number of ninjas monitoring Li Jing did not decrease at all. Li Jing smiled slightly and turned to the direction of the home of the person who replaced him now. Time passed, and it was already evening. The door of the room where Li Jing lived was suddenly opened, and a black shadow flashed out of the room. The black shadow was very fast and disappeared on the roof in a blink of an eye, heading straight to the south. "Captain, the target is escaping to the south. Leave 1 to inform the Hokage, and the rest will follow with me." "Yes, yes, yes." Whoosh 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 till the 4 or 5 black shadows flew onto the roof, speeding up again and again, chasing in the south where the target escaped. It didn't take long for the team behind to vaguely spot the target. They sped up and chased after him, but suddenly, the shadow in front stopped in a forest. Whoosh 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 till the pursuit team stopped in front of the target. Captain Akiyama Sawakawa waved his hand, and several team members moved together to surround the target. "No matter who you are, come with us now. There are still a few people. This effect won't work." The target shadow shook his head and continued, "You should have brought something like a signal, right?" "What do you mean?" Akiyama Sawakawa was confused and didn't understand what the person in front of him said. "Since you brought it, use it. Stop talking. Surrender quickly, otherwise we—" The person who spoke fell to the ground, but the target shadow stood there, without any sign of moving. You bastard." The black shadow shook his head slightly and said in a cold voice, "Send the signal." I swished. The head fell to the ground again, and the blood sprayed straight into the air. Under the faint moonlight, it looked so bloody, dazzling, hideous and terrifying. Chapter 108 Devil's Wings. Akiyama Sawakawa and several members stared with their eyes wide open in disbelief. What on earth was going on? Was the person in front of them really that strong? Could it be that even I, as a jonin, could not see his movements clearly? "I don't want to repeat it again." Swish. The black shadow raised his arm again, and then the moonlight shone through it, and Akiyama Sawakawa finally saw the enemy's weapon clearly. It was a straight blade, and the black blade emitted a slight cold light, which made people feel a chill. Whoosh bang. The signal flare passed through the leaves and exploded directly in the sky. The surrounding environment was suddenly illuminated, and Akiyama Sawakawa also saw the target person's dress and appearance clearly. The ordinary face of the public was no different from that in the daytime, but the black robe he wore looked both ruthless and cold. This person was undoubtedly Li Jing. With a slight sneer, he turned around and jumped up, stepped on the tree trunk to gain leverage, and disappeared in a move. "Captain, he's running away. Follow him. Don't get too close. The other teams should be coming." "Yes, yes." Whoosh! Several people jumped onto the branches and chased after him. Li Jing jumped all the way, neither fast nor slow, neither running away immediately nor keeping a distance from the pursuers. "Danyan, what's the situation, boss? Our actions are still too slow, and the places where we are going to attack are still on high alert." "Got it," Li Jing responded, and his body suddenly stopped. He casually threw out a few shurikens with detonating talismans, and with a few thumps, all the shurikens were stuck on the tree trunk. The red light on his left hand lit up, and the detonating talisman expanded to a size of several meters at a speed visible to the naked eye. Whoosh! Li Jing dodged away, and when he was a little further away, Li Jing raised the corners of his mouth and formed a seal with his fingers. Explode! Boom boom boom! The earth shook, and the flames went straight up to the sky. The forest around the detonating talisman was engulfed by the flames. No life could survive within 1,000 meters. In Konoha, in the Hokage's office, Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly stood up, walked to the window and pushed it open. The first thing he saw was the huge fire in the distance, and the black smoke rising into the sky. "What's going on, sir?" "It's the Anbu team chasing the suspicious man." A masked ninja who appeared at some point knelt on one knee behind Sarutobi Hiruzen and reported. "Oh, so it seems that this man is indeed more suspicious. The Anbu is under the direct control of the Hokage." The masked man kneeling on the ground did not answer, but waited for the leader's next instructions. "Send more people, give priority to keeping the survivors, and execute them on the spot if necessary." "Yes." The person behind him took the order and disappeared. Sarutobi Hiruzen did not look back from beginning to end. He stared straight at the fire in the distance outside the window. The expression on his face changed again and again, as if he remembered some memories. Li Jing stopped at a big tree. He had dealt with two groups of ninjas who blocked him before. No matter how many small fish there were, it would be difficult for them to pose any threat to Li Jing at this time. "Sky Eye, how long will it take?" "Boss, 5 minutes. It will be done soon." "Yes." Li Jing nodded and stopped talking. This action was just to attract Konoha's attention, so as to obtain a few heavily guarded things. If you want to rely on transformation to sneak in, it is almost impossible to achieve. Whether it is the detection of the Byakugan, or the sense of smell of the ninja dog, as well as various traps and secret codes, these are all things that will be encountered, and if you use force to force your way in, it will be too much effort and thankless. "Boss, I have got it." "Yes." Li Jing smiled slightly, and the things in his hands were also arranged. The nano-worm clothes on his back automatically split into 2 holes. Under the control of the cells, 2 black wings like demons slowly grew out. Flutter tilde the wings flapped, and Li Jing went straight into the sky and flew away. Explode! Boom 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 boom! A series of violent explosions. Most of the forest was enveloped in a sea of fire. The screams of ninjas, the collapse of trees, the flying of soil, the burning of flames, everything. It was as if the end of the world was coming. "Hokage-sama, the Anbu are still inside." "How many?" 200 people. Sarutobi Hiruzen frowned. With such a large-scale explosion and burning flames, the chances of the people inside surviving are extremely slim. Dong dong ka! The door was pushed open, and several ninjas rushed in with a bunch of reports in their arms. "Hokage-sama, a member of the Hyuga family died." "Huh?" Sarutobi Hiruzen was shocked, but before he could say anything, the continuous reports made his head swell. "Sir, a member of the Nara clan was also killed." "Sir, a member of the Akimiki clan also died." "Sir, a member of the Aburame clan died." "Sir, the Book of Seals was stolen." "Sir, the tomb of the first generation was dug up." "Sir, a secret laboratory was found on Naokawamichi. We were a step too late, and there was nothing left inside." "Sir, it's—" The reports came in continuously, Dozens of them. Saratobi Hiruzen raised his hand and rubbed his forehead. Was this series of events done by an individual, or an organization? If it was an individual, then what was the origin of this person? If it was an organization, then wouldn't Konoha have been completely infiltrated by them? Notify everyone to step up the alert, raise the alert to S level, offer a reward of 500 million, and immediately arrest the perpetrators of this crime. Yes, yes, yes. Saratobi Hiruzen pressed his forehead again. This incident was too big to suppress. There were too many dead and injured Anbu, and too many people knew about it. Even if he suppressed it, it would not take long for all of the ninjas in Konoha to hear the news. Li Jing flew for a long distance before folding his wings and landing in a mountain stream. The trees here were tall and the terrain was complex, so it was not difficult to find a place to stay. Boss, the gene samples and the Book of Seals have been obtained, but there is no body in the tomb of the first Hokage. Li Jing nodded. He had expected this. The body of Hashirama Senju was too precious. How could it be buried in the soil without any defense? The purpose of this operation was not to kill people, but to obtain the blood samples of these families so that the genetic codes of these blood limits could be cracked. Li Jing sat cross-legged on a boulder to rest. He didn't open his eyes again until more than half a day later. After a few minutes, the ground around the boulder began to emit a slight hissing sound. The soil was turned over, and a small animal like a mole crawled out. Then a series of holes were drilled in the soil, and poisonous snakes, pangolins, and even large beetles and other insect creatures appeared. These creatures were controlled by nanoworms. They could change their body shapes at will like Li Jing's clothes. They could dig holes, steal treasures, kill people, and do everything. After collecting the spoils spit out by these creatures, Li Jing assigned them to other places. The learning ability of the third-level supernatural power must be fully utilized, otherwise it would be a waste of resources. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109 Bloodline Code. Find an uninhabited mountain, use nanoworms to devour a secret room, and Li Jing will temporarily live here. Hyuga, Aburame, Akimiki, Nara, and Naruto's Uzumaki clan. These bloodline limits have their own specialties. Although they are not the best in the ninja world, they are also very valuable bloodlines. The learning ability of self-control is to copy the strengths of other genes, and then use them to enrich themselves. This is like a sophisticated computer that is constantly learning, calculating, and even upgrading. But the work of cracking the genetic code is not so easy. Li Jing can only spend time to make gradual progress now, and can't act rashly at all. Time has passed, and 3 years have passed in a flash. Li Jing's appearance not only has no signs of aging, but has become younger and colder. For 3 years, Li Jing didn't care about anything else. He concentrated on studying his own combat system and cracking many genes from all over the world. Corpse veins, ice release, steel release, speed release, dark release, crystal release, explosion release, scorch release, Sharingan, white eyes, red eyes, compound eyes. The types of bloodline limits are extremely complex. There are too many that have appeared and have not appeared, and there are too many uncontrollable and uncertain ones. But the more genes are cracked, the clearer the idea in Li Jing's mind becomes. No matter how many bloodline limits there are, they are just different combinations of attributes. It's like doing an experiment. The amount of various ingredients will cause completely different results, and there will be different bloodline limits. But the probability of this happening may be 1 in 10,000, or even rarer. In general, it is the body and the spirit, two different major branches, and these branch abilities are extended and combined again, and then form a unique and exclusive bloodline. Is it the same in reverse? What if all bloodline limits are analyzed and answered, and then fed back to the original body and spirit? The ability is not how much, as long as it is easy to use. Li Jing stood at the top of the mountain stream, took a deep breath, opened his left hand, and faced forward. Without any seals, The cells automatically adjusted the chakra to form a unique transportation route. Yin escape dark star. Buzz, an inch-sized black sphere appeared from Li Jing's palm. With a thought in his mind, the black sphere shot out at high speed and headed straight down a mountain stream. Li Jing opened his palm and squeezed it hard. Boom! As if his heartbeat accelerated, the inch-sized black sphere suddenly expanded under the mountain stream and expanded directly to form a black sphere with a diameter of 1 kilometer. Li Jing frowned slightly, withdrew his palm casually, turned around and left the mountain stream, and the huge black sphere without anyone controlling it gradually faded and disappeared with the wind. There was a quietness in the mountain stream, as if nothing had happened. If there was any reason to say it, it could only be said to be quiet, too quiet. Wu tilde a breeze blew, and the existence in the mountain stream seemed to tremble together. Trees, rocks, animals, water, gone with the wind, turned into ash tilde. What can be left is only a circular pit of 1 kilometer in size. In the 60th year of Kanoa, 2 months ago, a total of 27 students graduated from the ninja school, and 9 of them passed the selection of genin and became ninjas. The 9 people were divided into 3 classes, namely Class 7, Class 8 and Class 10. Li Jing entered Kanoa for the 3rd time and changed his appearance. It was not because he had no confidence in his martial arts, but because he hated troubles other than his purpose. Even his own chakra that exceeded the level of cage was temporarily sealed by Li Jing. Like an ordinary person, Li Jing settled down in Kanoa. After a long period of closed-door training, it was necessary to adjust and combine work and rest. Without the intervention of outsiders, the direction of history was still according to the original plot. After completing the sea-level mission and killing the demon Zabuza, Naruto's Kakashi team ushered in the Chunin exam to be held in July. The Sand Village, the Hidden Rain Village, the Kosugakure Village, the Takigakure Village, and the Sound Village all sent their own excellent teams to participate in the exam. As the host, Kanoa sent a total of 29 teams to the competition venue, and the number of people in other ninja villages added together was not as large as Kanoa's. Baga, if I hadn't performed so well in the first exam, would you have been able to get to the second exam so easily? Naruto, what kind of face is that? Dong tilde ouch. It hurts, Sakura-chan. Naruto squatted on the ground with his head covered, looking at the violent girl looking down at him with tears in his eyes. You better be quiet. Akaya Sasuke had a cold face, and his alertness increased. He was always paying attention to the dark places around him where he might hide and attack. The Death Forest, as the name suggests, this second exam will be a bloody feast of killing. Instead of being on guard and alert, he stayed there and bickered. I don't know if it's a big nerve or too ignorant of life and death. The land used for the examination hall converted from the number 44 practice field is a huge circle sealed by iron bars. The diameter of the entire circle is 20 kilometers. In other words, if you want to pass the exam and reach the tower in the center, you have to walk 10 kilometers, and before that, you must obtain other scrolls that are opposite to your own scroll of heaven. Be careful. Boom tilde smoke and dust rose up, and the ground was hit by a huge monster, plowing a deep trench 100 meters long. Akaya Sasuke flew to dodge and lay down under a bush to hide. Who is this person? Such momentum? And where did that idiot Naruto go? Bastard! Akaya Sasuke gritted his teeth and frowned. Sasuke! Akaya Sasuke suddenly turned back to be alert. Sakura? The two met and checked the code, but they didn't expect to encounter a new enemy. This enemy could hardly distinguish between men and women. Only the band symbol on the forehead could recognize that it was a ninja from the Kosugakure village. On the other side, Naruto had already been swallowed by a giant snake several dozen meters long. The squeezing of the muscles in the giant snake's abdomen and the melting of the acid put Naruto's life at stake. After racking his brains, at the critical moment of life and death, Naruto finally came up with a way to break the giant snake's belly with the shadow clone technique and escape. But when he finally found Akaya Sasuke and Haruno Sakura, the situation they faced was becoming more and more difficult. Crush, absolute crush. Whether it was physical skills, ninjutsu or illusion, the means possessed by the enemy were not something that the few people in Team 7 who had just become Genin could deal with. It's bad. If this goes on, none of the 3 people will survive. What should we do? Accuse Sasuke was seriously injured and his chakra had long been exhausted. He took a deep breath and stared at the enemy in front of him. This guy, the gap is too big, and he is not at the same level as himself and others. The Kusgakure ninja sneered slightly and made seals with his hands. P.S. I have to write some plots. Please don't criticize me for making up the word count. If I don't write them, it will be like playing checkers. I have tried to be as brief as possible. I won't say much else. Today's 3 updates are a way of giving back. Although it's not much, it's a little bit of my appreciation. Thank you. Whether it's a reward or a vote for support, I would like to thank everyone here. Your support is the best motivation for me to write. Thank you. Anyway, I have added words. I will post the sheep pen number 170.756.165. Chapter 110 Orochimaru. Summoning technique. Bang, smoke dispersed, and a huge snake appeared at the feet of the Kusgakure. The Kusgakure sneered, and the giant snake stood up and rushed forward, attacking Accuse Sasuke. The strong wind blew in his face, and Accuse Sasuke opened his eyes wide, clenched his teeth, and tightened the kunai in his hand again and again. Here it comes. Can he still take this attack again? Bang, tilde, the trees shook, and Accuse Sasuke's eyes widened again. Was he saved by this bastard in front of him? Uzumaki Naruto. He resisted the impact of the huge snake head, but unfortunately, that was all. After fighting again, it was only a few rounds, and the guy with the appearance of Kusgakure played the 3 people of Team 7 horribly, and they were in a dilemma of life and death. Naruto was blocked from the connection with the Nine Tails by the 5 elements seal, and the whole person fell to the ground and was unconscious. Accuse Sasuke also reached his limit. He was panting, his eyes were sore, and his whole body was soaked with sweat. Shu of the Kusanagi sneered and formed seals with his hands again. He had enough fun, but he couldn't forget to do business. His neck suddenly stretched out, directly spanning a distance of dozens of meters, and enveloped Accuse Sasuke's position. ZZ tilde, as if penetrating space and time, a silver lightning with a width of 2 fingers suddenly flashed. ZZ tilde with a slight sound, the lightning with a length of dozens of meters, like a heavenly sword, cut off the Kusanagi's perverted neck that spanned dozens of meters. Dong, the Kusanagi's head fell to the ground, and his long neck was broken into 2 parts. His wide eyes were full of bloodshot, and his face even had an expression of disbelief. Accuse Sasuke half knelt on the ground, and his violent panting proved that he was already at the end of his strength. Whether it was physical strength or energy, he had long been exhausted and had no power to resist. Dead. Finally dead. Accuse Sasuke relaxed his mind and felt like he was about to faint. He narrowed his eyes and bit his tongue hard. Now was not the time to rest. The person who had made the move had not yet appeared. He must not be careless. Swish. Accuse Sasuke, whose mouth was bleeding, suddenly had his pupils shrink like needles. It was too fast. The speed was really too fast. From where did the person in front of him appear? The person was very young, with long and sharp eyes and a cold face. He was wearing a black robe with gold patterns on the bottom and a golden king cobra pattern on his back. Could it be that this person is in the same group as the guy before? No. If they were in the same group, how could they kill each other? Then, what is going on? Accuse Sasuke was still frowning and thinking, while the person with a cold face was looking at the dead body of the grass ninja. Orochimaru, aren't you coming out yet? After a few breaths, except for Accuse Sasuke's horrified face, no one else showed any abnormality. The black-robed young man narrowed his eyes, and a little starlight suddenly burst out from his pupils. Boom, tilde, the corpse, which was dozens of meters away from the young man, suddenly exploded violently. In the raging flames, the corpse was torn into pieces. In just a few breaths, it turned into ashes and dissipated. It's really beyond my expectations. A hoarse voice came out, and not far from the ashes of the corpse, on the thick tree trunk, a pale-faced man wearing a sound ninja forehead protector slowly emerged. The man had black hair, sharp eyes with purple lines, and pupils that looked more like cold-blooded snake pupils. Oh, beyond your expectation, to be precise. I think I am disturbing your good thing. Orochimaru sneered and narrowed his eyes. It seems that you understand it very clearly. Then I wonder, who exactly are you? Who I am, you will naturally know in the future, and the purpose of this visit is to find you to make a deal. Oh, deal? Orochimaru's mouth twitched, and his hoarse voice became colder. Your style of doing things does not seem to have any intention of making a deal. No, no, no. The young man in black robe shook his head and smiled slightly. Orochimaru, this is already polite enough. Otherwise you would not be standing here talking to me safely. Also, I spent a lot of time looking for you. You should feel this sincerity. Orochimaru frowned. Too arrogant. This kind of word should be said by the superior to the inferior. As one of the three ninjas, when has anyone dared to use this tone to himself? Little guy, you're going to kill me if you talk like that. Orochimaru licked his lips with his tongue, and looked at the black-robed youth with sharp eyes, as if he was looking at a dead object. The black-robed youth was undoubtedly Li Jing, and he smiled again. Oh, then let's try. Li Jing waved at Orochimaru, and Orochimaru narrowed his eyes, and a cold murderous aura suddenly burst out. As he shook his hands, two sharp kunai flew out. Whoosh! Li Jing raised the corners of his mouth without caring, raised two fingers and pinched them slightly. Snap! With a light sound, Li Jing pinched the first kunai between his two fingers, and the remaining kunai. Li Jing's pupils moved, and with a snap, the whole kunai broke into pieces and fell to the ground. Whoosh! With a flick of his two fingers, the whole kunai counterattacked several times faster than when it came, accompanied by a trace of blue lightning. Dong dong dong! Orochimaru turned his head to avoid the kunai, but the thick tree behind him was pierced by more than a dozen kunai. The nature of the lightning attribute chakra changes. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes slightly, and the cold light emitted from them was even more chilling. The person in front of him was obviously extraordinary. Just the way of operating the lightning attribute, which was more penetrating than the wind attribute, was not something that ordinary people could do. Suddenly, Orochimaru smiled slightly, stretched out his long tongue and licked it, and said, I am a little interested in the transaction you mentioned. I think it should be a very interesting thing. As soon as the voice fell, Orochimaru slowly sank into the tree and disappeared. Akaya Sasuke on the side was relieved immediately. The pressure before was too great. He turned his head to look at the young man in black robes, but found that the young man in black robes disappeared without a trace. When was it? Damn, am I still too weak? Swish! Sasuke. Teacher Kakashi? Kakashi nodded and looked around. The situation in front of him shocked him. What is this? Fallen trees, burning ashes, dead giant snakes, and a straight line that penetrated more than a dozen trees. All of this represents the fierce battle before. Akaya Sasuke told Kakashi everything that happened before. Kakashi frowned and nodded. Orochimaru, he is really a tricky guy. Then, who is the other young man in black robe? Looking at the kunai that penetrated the trees without any damage, Kakashi frowned even more. This kind of change in the nature of thunder attribute should be a skill with extremely high vibration frequency, which is more penetrating than the wind attribute. This kind of control is difficult to achieve even for the Chidori that he developed himself. Who is this person? Chapter 111. The battle continues. If the perception ninja hadn't discovered the problem here, it's not certain what would happen. This matter must be reported to the Hokage. After Kakashi failed to persuade Akaya Sasuke to withdraw from the examination room, he left first and went to the place where the Hokage was to report the situation. Swish swish! In the dense forest, two figures stopped their high-speed movement and landed on tree trunks dozens of meters apart. Orochimaru, have you finally chosen a place? Orochimaru sneered continuously. The person in front of him was unexpectedly smart. He had been exposed before, and his goal was not achieved. There were also small insects coming to interfere, so staying would only do more harm than good. Unexpectedly, the person in front of him also saw it very clearly. Young man, you should think clearly before doing anything, otherwise there will be consequences. Orochimaru, are you preaching? If so, then it's better not to. Li Jing waved his hand to interrupt Orochimaru's words. Orochimaru's expression became colder, and then he smiled and stopped talking, but the murderous aura he exuded became stronger and stronger. I knew you wouldn't trade with me honestly. Now it seems that you can't escape using force to solve the problem. Orochimaru, there's no need to say more nonsense. You have something I need. If you can't die, then give it to me. As soon as the voice fell, Li Jing's eyes turned cold, and his black pupils shrank. Buzz Orochimaru's hair stood up, and he dodged away from the spot. Boom! The thick trees were directly shattered into pieces and fell to the ground. Orochimaru was in the air with his eyes narrowed slightly, and his hands formed seals. Swish! The secret technique. Evil snake wrist explosion. Bang bang bang. The smoke dissipated, replaced by 3 huge snakes, which spit out their tongues and opened their mouths to bite Li Jing. HMPH. Li Jing stepped on the ground, and the ground shook a few times, and then quickly built a circular wall, which was connected above Li Jing's head, forming an absolutely defensive bow-like state. Orochimaru's face turned cold, and he clasped his hands together. Explode! Boom boom boom! A few violent explosions. The 3 giant snakes surrounding the bowl exploded and shattered. Under the smoke, Orochimaru did not relax his guard at all. Sure enough, when the smoke dissipated, the explosion in the field only destroyed some trees around. The enemy's defense wall was still intact in the center, and even flashed a unique diamond-like brilliance. The defensive wall collapsed and disappeared automatically. Li Jing walked out slowly with a sneer on his face. He had no intention of attacking again, but stared at Orochimaru with interest. Orochimaru, can we have a good talk now? You have to know that I have made enough concessions. What a joke. Orochimaru raised his hand and bit his thumb, then formed a seal with both hands and pressed it down suddenly, summoning 10,000 snakes. Bang! White smoke rose up, and a purple behemoth suddenly appeared in the field. It was a giant snake, a huge giant snake that was dozens of feet long. Orochimaru, your last sacrifice is not here yet. Li Jing frowned, feeling that he had wasted enough time. He raised his right index finger and a green light shone slightly. Buzz! Whoosh! A straight green ray suddenly enveloped the 10,000 snakes. The 10,000 snakes were stunned before they finished speaking, and then its huge body shrank rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye between a few shakes and breaths. It was hard to hear. It was really hard to hear. The voice of the snake that had turned into a foot-long bug was too soft. Orochimaru's pupils suddenly shrank like needles. The scene in front of him was too incredible. It was really hard to believe this. Orochimaru, my patience is limited. You'd better think it over before you speak, otherwise it will be a bad feeling to turn into a reptile. Orochimaru licked his lips and stared at Li Jing's right hand with sharp eyes. Is this a ninjutsu, or is it an unknown blood limit? What do you want? Li Jing smiled slightly and was about to speak, but his brows frowned slightly. Let's leave here first. There are more bugs coming to make trouble. Orochimaru raised the corner of his mouth, and the whole person turned into white smoke and dissipated with a bang. At this time, there was no one at the place where Li Jing was, except for a few fallen trees. The surroundings once again returned to their original quiet and peacefulness. Swish, swish. 2 figures appeared in the woods again, one big and one small, one tall and one short. Parker, is this the place? Yes, that's right. I just left not long ago. But why would there be a fight for only one person? There shouldn't be any smell of other people here. Parker was lying on the ground sniffing hard, and what he said to himself startled Kakashi. Did he use some method to cover up his own smell? Otherwise, how could it be possible? Kakashi! Parker's shouting made Kakashi come back to his senses suddenly. He turned around and made a defensive move. He heard it. He also heard it. It was footsteps. A few dozen meters away, slowly walking over was a young man in a black robe. The young man was cold, sharp, and indifferent. His appearance was exactly that of Li Jing, who had just left not long ago. Who are you? Li Jing shook his head slightly and smiled. I came here to borrow something from you. Kakashi frowned. The man didn't answer the question and his purpose was unclear. However, just based on the aura of a person, it was enough to judge that the person in front of him was not an easy character to deal with. This person should be the one who fought with Orochimaru, as Sasuke said. So, here, The two of them fought again. Why did he hide his aura and show up again? Is this person an enemy or a friend? There were too many questions that came to mind in an instant. Kakashi frowned and looked at Li Jing. Lend me something? I don't know what it is. Sharingan. Li Jing smiled slightly. As expected, Kakashi was not surprised at all. Apart from the head on his neck, the most valuable thing on him was this eye. However, it was something he had to protect at the cost of his life. Without saying anything more, Kakashi raised his hand and pushed up the forehead protector covering the Sharingan. In the middle of a striking scar, the three-Magatama Sharingan was opened. Woo! A breeze blew, rippling the hair and clothes of the two people in the field. The battle was about to start. A dead branch on the tree was gently broken by the breeze. Whoosh! Kakashi threw out a few shurikens, and followed closely behind with amazing speed. Boom! 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 All the shurikens sank into the tree trunk. Kakashi's pupils suddenly shrank, because there was no one in front of him. Too slow. The indifferent voice was accompanied by a violent gust of wind. There was no time to form a seal, and Kakashi could only cross his hands to welcome the enemy's heavy blow. Chapter 112 Puppet Clone. Boom! Kakashi was kicked and flew away, sliding dozens of meters away, hitting a thick tree trunk. The trunk collapsed under the huge force, and Kakashi was buried under the trunk with dust flying everywhere. Kakashi tilde Parker, who was hiding on the side, was very anxious, but he was not a fighting type, so he could only stare blankly and could not help at all. HMPH. Li Jing suddenly stomped on the ground. Don crack tilde the ground sank, and cracks as long as 10 meters appeared one after another. A figure suddenly jumped out from the ground in the distance. His eyes narrowed slightly, and he took 2 long breaths. This person was undoubtedly Kakashi. Failure. Failure. 2 consecutive attacks have failed. The enemy's vigilance is really too high. Swish! Kakashi made seals with both hands, and put his fingers under his mouth. Fire escape dragon fire technique. Apostrophe whoosh! A straight wave of fire shot out and rushed towards Li Jing's direction. Li Jing smiled slightly. His hands did not move at all. To deal with this kind of ninjutsu, there was no need to make hand seals. Water style water wave. Apostrophe sizzle! White smoke rose and steam filled the air. Although they were only the lowest sea-level ninjutsu, they exerted the power equivalent to B-level ninjutsu or above in the hands of the two. Under the cover of water vapor, the surrounding situation was blurred. Parker lay anxiously in the bushes, just wanting to see the battle situation inside by opening his eyes wide. Squeak squeak! It was like 1,000 birds singing together. Lightning flashed in the fog, but what was puzzling was that the lightning flashed in 2 places not far from each other. Boom! The lightning flashes intersected, and the surrounding water vapor was swept away. Li Jing and Kakashi cut against each other with lightning, and the lightning flashed, turning the surrounding grass into charcoal. Unlike Li Jing's relaxed attitude, Kakashi's forehead was sweating. What happened before and what happened now shocked him and made him pale with fear. The dragon fire technique was just a feint of a clone, and the Rakiri was the real backhand, but the enemy in front of him seemed to have seen through everything, not only making his sneak attack fruitless, but also forming the current confrontation. Also, what's going on with this Rakiri? Is the opponent also a copy-type ninja? Kakashi looked at the enemy's black and white eyes and gave up the last thought in his heart. Copying ninjutsu is not that simple. How did the enemy do it without the Sharingan? Could it be that he had already learned this ninjutsu before? Kakashi, at this critical moment of life and death, it's not good to be distracted. Kakashi's pupils shrank, but it was too late. Li Jing smiled and his right hand had already stretched out, not for anything else, but directly aimed at Kakashi's Sharingan. Retreating is death, not moving is the eye. While fighting against Rakiri, the cold sweat on Kakashi's forehead suddenly slid down. No, he still had one hand to use. Kakashi stared at the enemy's fingers getting closer and closer, but his other hand could not move at all. What is this? The shadow imitation technique of the Nara family? No, it is more advanced than the shadow imitation technique. Apostrophe retreat? Now I can't retreat even if I want to. With a slight sound, Li Jing was slightly stunned when he saw a trace of blood on his finger. What a fast speed! Kakashi, are you okay? It's okay. Kakashi covered his bleeding Sharingan and shook his head slightly at the person in front of him. It was okay, but the Sharingan was scratched. It's good that you're okay. Who is this person? The person helped Kakashi up and turned to look in the direction of Jing. Kakashi shook his head again. I don't know the details. By the way, how did you get here? Let's not talk about that for now. Although I don't know the intelligence of this guy, since he will attack you, he must be an enemy. Kakashi nodded. His face was not optimistic. He knew nothing about the enemy in front of him, and judging from the previous battle, the enemy's force value was obviously very high. Even if he added a might guy to his side, the specific situation would be difficult to estimate. Unlike Kakashi and the others who were on guard, Jing smiled slightly at this time. He collected the blood on his fingers, bit his thumb and began to make seals. Today's matter has come to an end. Kakashi, and Konoha's blue beast, we will see you next time. Reverse summoning technique. Bang! The white smoke dispersed, and Jing's figure was no longer seen. Kakashi frowned, but secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The unknown is the most terrifying, whether it is a person or an object. We have no information about the enemy. It is better to get hold of this mysterious person's information as soon as possible, so that when the enemy threatens Konoha again, Konoha will not even know the enemy's situation. Kakashi, let's go back to Konoha first. Kakashi waved his hand to interrupt Might Guy's questioning. After calling Parker out, he took the lead and headed towards Konoha quickly. Might Guy didn't say anything else and followed closely behind him, escorting him along the way. Bang! With a light sound, Jing appeared again, but in a dark room, and in front of him, there was a Jing who looked exactly like him. The sitting Jing opened his eyes, smiled slightly and stood up, while the Jing who just appeared took out a small bottle and stood aside motionless. Solve. The standing Jing slowly collapsed to the ground as if it had melted, and then formed a pool of green substance that disappeared. The Jing that fought with Kakashi was originally a hybrid clone made by the real body using nanoworms, its own cell tissue, and ninjutsu as a medium. This clone can act independently, can be controlled as a puppet from a distance, and can also use many abilities of the real body, which is much stronger than the shadow clone, attribute clone, etc. Because it is more like a wood clone or a spore clone, it has entity, offensiveness and controllability, which is not comparable to ordinary energy clones. The previous reverse summoning technique also used the location of the real body to reverse the recall of the clone. Otherwise, the summoned beast would use ninjutsu to summon the master. Jing opened the vial, put his finger in, and swallowed up the blood inside. Kakashi's Mangekyo Sharingan and Obito's are a pair, both of which are rare space eyes. This ability can be said to be a rare existence. Jing also likes this ability to come and go freely, and to crack the blood gene code, whether it is blood or eyeballs. The difference between the two is not very big. Dong dong, someone knocked on the door. Who? Lord Kigaku. I am Tayuya. Lord Orochimaru wants to see you. Got it. Jing agreed and stood up to open the door. He didn't expect that the name Kigaku Shin had already been known to everyone because of his joke. Click. The door opened, and Tayuya was still waiting outside. Lead the way. Yes. Chapter 113 Nirvana Abode. As they walked, they slowly passed through several dark corridors. This was a small base not far from Konoha. Normally, no one lived there. It could only be regarded as a temporary place opened by Orochimaru. Sir, we're here. Tayuya stopped in front of a door, knocked on it, and gently pushed it open. After Jing stepped in, Tayuya behind him closed the door again. Click. The room was dark. Only under the light of the fire could a man with a blurred face sitting on a chair at the head seat be seen. I can give you all the things you need, but I need you to do two things for me in exchange. A hoarse voice came out, and Jing smiled slightly. Orochimaru could speak like this, which meant that he had recognized this equal transaction to some extent, instead of being arrogant and conceited, as if he was giving alms to others. Orochimaru, the ultimate boss in the early stage of the Naruto world. Although extreme, it is undeniable that he is a true genius. Without any luxurious bloodline, he relied on his own talent to develop the ultimate immortal reincarnation and the reincarnation without corpse of the white phosphorus snake. which represents immortality, based on his predecessor's footsteps. Immortality. What a dazzling word. In a sense, Orochimaru has done it. Okay. Oh, Orochimaru was slightly stunned, and then said casually with interest, "Aren't you afraid that I will ask you to do something you can't do?" Li Jing smiled slightly. "If you are really so bored, then I don't mind killing you first." He tilde ha 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 tilde. Orochimaru's laughter became louder and louder, but Li Jing turned a blind eye and did not change his face. He was indeed very sure to kill Orochimaru, but Orochimaru's value was worth doing two things for himself, even if it was just a little respect for Orochimaru's persistence. In Konoha, the Chunin exam was not interrupted, and a group of genin still fought in the central tower of the Forest of Death. Central Tower, Chunin qualifying tournament, 7 groups of genin, 21 people in total, except for one person who was given a bye. The rest had to choose one from 2 to compete. With Kabuto Yakushi's automatic withdrawal, there were only 9 genin left in the final competition. The Chunin exam is more like a military exercise that shows off its claws. The Land of Fire is a big country, except for the Sand Village that participated as an ally. The other genin are just some small ninja villages in the surrounding area. This Chunin selection gathering is a silent display of military power and talent reserves. In a month, the 9 qualifiers ushered in the ultimate Chunin official selection. After the qualifying round, Li Jing, dressed like an ordinary person, sat in the audience, watching with interest a few little strong men fighting each other off the field. Now is the last battle between Uchiha Sasuke and Sandstorm Gaara. As for the other little strong men, it had ended long before. "Teacher Kakashi, is your eye okay now?" "Yes." Kakashi smiled and responded, his eyes gently curved like a crescent moon, and then he seemed to remember something, raised his hand and touched the Sharingan covered by the forehead protector. "This eye is really in trouble." "Kakashi, my eternal opponent, how could you hold on to such a small matter?" Might Guy's slap made Kakashi cough several times. He patted the big hand on his shoulder and agreed repeatedly. Yes, I'm okay now. Oh, by the way, Akai, some intelligence about the enemy has been collected. You don't know yet? Oh, what kind of information is it?" Might Guy is indeed very curious. Kakashi has written a report on the battle situation at that time, and Might Guy has read this report. The strength of the opponent is beyond his imagination. He can use S-level Kiri ninjutsu, and shadow-type ninjutsu that is more advanced than the Nara family's shadow imitation technique. All of this can only mean that this unknown enemy is indeed extraordinary and beyond the expectations of ordinary people. Not only was Might Guy curious, but also several genin around him and Kakashi were very curious. Haruno Sakura, Akimaki Choji, and even Rock Lee, who was injured in the fight with Gaara, were no exception, and they all asked, Okay. Kakashi waved his hand to let everyone be quiet, but suddenly frowned as if he remembered something, and said softly, "This young man first appeared 4 years ago, not long after the incident in Konoha." "That incident? Could it be Uchiha?" Might Guy was shocked. Kakashi nodded and continued, "This young man was found and recorded in a small town on the east coast of the Land of Fire. To be more precise, he should have deliberately exposed himself at that time, because this person offered a bounty of 10 billion to kill a person." "Wow, so rich." "Yes, 10 billion. How many missions do you have to do to earn it?" "Teacher Kakashi, who is the person he offered a bounty for? To do this, he must have a lot of hatred, right?" Rock Lee was also attracted, widened his eyes and couldn't help asking. Kakashi shook his head and said, "I am sure that this is not out of hatred, because the young man put a bounty on himself." What? How is this possible?" Several people exclaimed in surprise, feeling that this was too unbelievable and incomprehensible. "Putting a bounty on himself? Why? What is the purpose? Is it just to find someone to kill him? I think he must have his own considerations." Kakashi did not want to dwell on this issue, because he could roughly understand why this person did this. Because this young man was not killed, and it was becoming increasingly difficult to kill him. After that, this young man went through more than a year of continuous fighting, but every time it was the bounty hunters who lost, and this young man disappeared completely after that, until today, 3 years later. He appeared again. Teacher Kakashi, then isn't this person you are talking about very powerful? Teacher Kakashi, what is his name? Kakashi nodded and replied, this young man is indeed very powerful. Even I don't have the slightest confidence that I can survive from his hands. So, if you encounter this person, you'd better get away as soon as possible, and don't choose to fight hard. As for his name, the one on the bounty list is Kigakushin. Kigakushin? Kigaku? Several people were still thinking about it, but there was a new change in the gathering. Akaya Sasuke was fighting Gaara for the last time, and thousands of spectators fell asleep without knowing it. Illusion Nirvana Jinxjutsu. Apostrophe. Chapter 114 1 versus 3. In the air, white feathers fell. Li Jing raised his head and smiled. Is it about to begin? Li Jing had watched the battle between Orochimaru and Sarutobi Hiruzen several times. Orochimaru liked living things that moved, and hated dead things that did not move. He once described the third generation as the turning of a windmill. The general meaning was that he wanted the third generation to die in a heroic way, and he did not want to see the third generation, who was old, still supporting Konoha to survive calmly like a stealth ninja. Bond. Maybe this is the special love and sorrow in Orochimaru's heart. Boom! With a loud noise, a puff of smoke came out from the position of the third-generation Hokage and the Tsunagakure Kazekage on the high platform. This smoke seemed to be a signal. The sand ninjas in various positions on the stands moved together, and the Konoha collapse operation plan was officially launched. With a bang, a loud noise was heard outside the Konoha village. Not long after, a three-headed giant snake rushed to the Konoha wall. The three-headed giant snake was several dozen feet long, and several dozen meters tall when it stood up. It rushed towards the wall of Konoha while its three heads kept spitting out their tongues. Boom! The wall collapsed, and dust filled the air. The ninjas who attacked the giant snake seemed to be inconspicuous little bugs. Not to mention stopping the giant snake from moving forward, it was difficult to even do the slightest damage. The giant snake had not been resolved yet, and the position of the high platform where the Hokage was located had changed again. Orochimaru, disguised as the Wind Shadow, took the third Hokage hostage to the roof, and the four sound ninjas broke through the obstruction of the Konoha Anbu and built a four-purple flame array on the roof, surrounding Sarutobi Hiruzen and Orochimaru. Li Jing, who was walking, suddenly stopped and smiled slightly. At this time, he had regained his true form. He had never thought that he would meet acquaintances so soon. Kakashi, Might Guy, and Sarutobi Asuma, the son of the third Hokage. Li Jing slowly turned around, and it was these three people who appeared in front of him. Unlike Li Jing's relaxed smile, Kakashi and Might Guy were on high alert at this time, not daring to be careless. Kigaku, really? Why did you come to Konoha? Kakashi frowned. The battles around him were already fierce, and not only could he not help here, but he felt a greater sense of crisis. As you can see, Li Jing smiled continuously, I'm just here to help Orochimaru. What? Orochimaru? Where is he? Kakashi and the other two were shocked, looked at each other, and turned their heads to look at the direction of the four purple flame formation. You guessed it right, Orochimaru, isn't it? But unfortunately, you can't help at all. Damn it. Asuma turned around and wanted to leave to help, but was pulled by Kakashi. The person in front of him was right. The four purple flame formation was not so easy to break through. Even if he and others went there, it would not have any effect. It would be better to stay and do what he could, such as dealing with the enemy in front of him. Asuma, calm down. Asuma took a long breath, then stared at Li Jing with sharp eyes, and said, what exactly are you going to do? Do you want to provoke a war between Konoha and Sand Ninja? Li Jing raised his finger and shook it. You are not worth my attention. What war or not has nothing to do with me. The reason why I am here is just to help. Of course, I don't care whether you believe it or not. Kakashi and the other two kept their mouths shut and frowned. What they said was speechless. Help? It's just a simple help. Why don't you say that you are just here for fun? No one spoke again, but the atmosphere between the two sides became more and more tense and more serious. Being affected by the surrounding battle, A shuriken was inserted between Kakashi and Li Jing. Kakashi and the other two set off together. Swish! A series of shurikens were thrown out, followed by Kakashi and Might Guy's sprint, and Asuma, who was a medium-close ninja, took a few steps and went to the back of Li Jing. Li Jing smiled and casually dodged the shuriken shooting, but Might Guy's whip kick followed. Kano, a great tornado snap. Li Jing raised his hand to receive it. Squeak! Rikiri. Kakashi suddenly appeared from behind Might Guy, holding his right hand in the air, and with a violent thunderous roar, he aimed at Li Jing's heart and hit it down, while Li Jing's whole body was torn into pieces, and blood splattered everywhere. No, it should be dirt splattered everywhere. Earth clone? When Might Guy and the other two were all shocked, and Kakashi opened his Sharingan wide and looked around for the enemy's location. Be careful, Asuma shouted, but before Kakashi and the other two could turn around to look, they were hit hard and flew dozens of meters away. Boom boom, two loud noises, the wall collapsed, and Kakashi and Might Guy were buried under the rubble. Secret technique: ashes burn. Asuma opened his mouth and spit out a large cloud of smoke, which enveloped Li Jing within a range of 10 meters. Asuma gritted his teeth. Boom! A burst of flame suddenly exploded along with the smoke, and Might Guy also opened the fourth gate of the 8 gates of ninjutsu, and rushed out of the ruins with Kakashi. Are you okay? Kakashi, Akai, it's okay, don't be careless, the enemy is not that easy to deal with. As soon as Kakashi finished speaking, he felt a breeze blowing behind his head. You're right, Kakashi, what is this? The enemy's voice. When exactly was it? Kakashi's eyes widened. He couldn't believe that even the Sharingan didn't see the enemy's movements clearly. Kakashi, be careful. Squeak! Kakashi lunged forward, but still felt a sharp pain in his back, and then he felt his blood flowing out of the wound. Li Jing smiled and casually shook the blood on his palm. With the control of the third level cells, he could easily turn his hand into a sharp blade, let alone turn himself into a ninja turtle. The sixth gate, open. Sweat gushed out. Might Guy saw Kakashi was injured, and suddenly opened the sixth gate of the 8 gates of the ninjutsu, the Jingman. His eyes widened, his hair stood up, and his terrifying momentum soared into the sky. Explosion. Boom! Might Guy stepped hard, and the whole person disappeared immediately. His speed was so fast that people seemed to hear the sound of a sonic boom. Boom! Li Jing took a punch and was knocked flying and hit the wall 100 meters away. Crack! The rubble fell, and before Li Jing's body could slide down, Might Guy approached again at an absolute speed. Bang bang bang! Continuously, with increasing force, every punch and every attack of Might Guy hit Li Jing's chest. Boom boom boom! Dust flew, rubble splashed, and the wall collapsed. In less than 10 seconds, Might Guy attacked at least 100 punches, and even the wall behind Li Jing was forcibly opened with a big hole. Chapter 115, Watching the Moon in the Water. Akai, how da. The blood was low. Might Guy bent down and took a deep breath. He raised his shaking hands and frowned. Rotten, really rotten. This is the only way to describe his hands at this moment. Bloody and fleshy. Might Guy's hands seemed to be scraped off by sharp thorns, and the entire fist surface turned into a pile of rotten skin, revealing the white bones. The ruins were opened by someone, and in the dust, a figure in a black robe could be vaguely seen inside. Kakashi and Asuma, regardless of Might Guy's wounds, turned around and defended, and Might Guy clenched his fists again, ignoring the serious injuries on his hands. Good speed and great strength. But it's a pity, it doesn't work for me. Li Jing walked out of the ruins with a slight smile on his face. At this time, let alone his injuries, even his clothes seemed to be bright and clean as new. In the 8 gates of ninjutsu, Li Jing still ignored Akai, who opened the 6th gate. It was not because he could not dodge Might Guy's speed before, but he wanted to test his body's defense. For this reason, Li Jing put away all the self-defense jade pendants he bought before. Now it seems that the effect is still good. The 3rd level mimicry can transform into the hardest substance in the world. Although it is only theoretically correct, Li Jing can at least transform into a hedgehog version of Diamond. In other words, It is harder than diamond. Swish. Li Jing disappeared at a speed comparable to Might Guy's sixth gate. Kakashi and his friends were all extremely alert. This kind of enemy is really too scary. The speed and strength are all top-notch, and so far, the enemy seems to have not even used a ninjutsu, secret technique. Looking at the moon and the water. Buzz. Whatever I thought of came true. Kakashi and the other two only felt their bodies tremble, and then they didn't find anything. Li Jing's figure suddenly appeared behind Kakashi and the others. Kakashi and the other two turned around to defend, but saw that the enemy smiled slightly and no longer made any offensive moves. The three of them looked at each other and attacked together. Fire style fire dragon flame bomb. Wind style big breakthrough. Towards the peacock. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The raging fire was in front, and the gust of wind was behind. The fire took advantage of the wind and covered the sky and the ground. Following closely was Might Guy's Jingman ultimate move, towards the peacock. The three of them attacked together, and the range of the attack was extremely wide. The enemy was not affected by physical attacks, and the speed was extremely fast. Therefore, they could only choose the long-range attack of ninjutsu. Whoosh. The raging fire enveloped them, but Li Jing stood there without any intention of moving his body, and the slight smile on the corner of his mouth seemed to be testing the nerves of Kakashi and the other two at all times. Laughing? Or did he choose to take the lead again so that the opponent would return empty-handed? Whoosh. As the raging flames rushed past, Kakashi and the other two frowned more and more. What did they see? They couldn't believe it. The flames were still burning, but the enemy was standing in the fire unharmed, as if they were in another time and space with everyone else. Ninjutsu and peacock had no effect at all. Kakashi and the other two had never fought with Akaya. Otherwise, they would definitely think that this scene was also the effect of time and space ninjutsu, but the fact is different. Akaya time and space ninjutsu was used on himself, while Li Jing's moon and the water was used on the enemy, and it was not an exclusive skill carried by the main Kyo Sharingan. Kakashi and the others looked at each other, and they all felt that the scene in front of them was too unbelievable, and Might Guy was even more arrogant and directly opened the seventh door, the shocking gate. Boom. Dust flew, smoke rose up, Might Guy stepped on the ground, and his figure disappeared without a trace. His speed doubled, much higher than the speed when he opened the 6 gates. Whoosh. Boom. Li Jing kept smiling, but Might Guy went straight through his body and smashed the wall behind him. Kakashi frowned even more. Something was wrong. Something was wrong. Is there something wrong? Where is it? Is it an illusion? Is it an unknown blood limit? If you can't attack the enemy, then even if you have a high attack power, it's useless. What kind of situation is this now? Flaws. As long as it's a ninjutsu, there must be flaws in it. Don't waste your time. As if seeing through Kakashi's thinking of a countermeasure, Li Jing shook his head and said, "It's almost time, and I've played enough with you. It's time to end it." "What? Be careful." Whoosh. Li Jing raised his hand and shot out a few finger bones. The finger bones changed with the nature of the thunder attribute, and the tremors accelerated, piercing directly into Asuma's chest. Fast. Too fast. There was no time to react or dodge. Kakashi's Sharingan opened wide, and he stretched out his hand to push Asuma away. Unfortunately, Kakashi looked at Asuma with an unbelievable look on his face as he fell to the ground after being pierced through the chest by the hidden weapon, while his palm seemed to be illusory and passed straight through Asuma's shoulder. Asuma. Might Guy instantly caught Asuma, but contrary to his wishes, his palm also passed through in vain. This. Kakashi looked down at his hands and couldn't believe it. This kind of thing was too unexpected for him. Swish. A white thing suddenly appeared. Its speed was incredibly fast. In a breath it had completely surrounded Li Jing, leaving only his head exposed. Ninjutsu random lion hair technique. Bang. Dust flew. A huge toad fell on the field, and the white hair on Li Jing came from a middle-aged man on the top of the toad. "Jiraiya-sama?" "Teacher Jiraiya." Everyone in the field looked at the man on the top of the toad. Jiraiya raised his mouth and shouted, "Ha! It's my beloved beautiful girl killer, the toad sage of Mount Myabaku, Jiraiya-sama." Wahahaha. Teacher Jiraiya. In the face of a powerful enemy, you Kakashi tried to hold back the black line on his forehead to remind him. But Jiraiya waved his hand to interrupt him. This sage already knows. Kakashi, you take Asuma away first. Leave this place to me. Hey, Kai, you take Asuma to heal first. I'll stay. Might Guy was slightly stunned. But, Kakashi, you are injured too. And you, okay. Kakashi waved his hand and continued. Kai, go. I still have something to say to Lord Jiraiya. Might Guy nodded and could only do what Kakashi said. Li Jing chuckled. You guys are really interesting, but it's a pity. I want to see how you take this person away. Yes, Kakashi and Might Guy were both shocked. They didn't know what kind of technique the enemy had cast on them. Not to mention taking Asuma away. They couldn't even touch him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116, Gathering the Sea into Pills. HMPH. Jiraiya snorted coldly and looked directly at Li Jing. Young man, don't be so self-righteous. Your secret technique. This sage has already seen through it. Oh? Li Jing had no intention of breaking free, and smiled. Then I would like to hear how you, the Toad Sage, cracked my ninjutsu. HMPH. This is nothing more than a combination of illusion, barrier, and time-space ninjutsu. The time-space ninjutsu you used on Kakashi and others is real, but the environment around. Bang! Jiraiya jumped off the top of the toad and fell straight to the ground. It's fake. Open. Bang! Jiraiya pressed the ground with one hand, and the chakra operated on its own, penetrating the surrounding environment one by one to crack it. The void seemed to have cracks like a mirror, as if the whole world was about to collapse in an instant. Jiraiya was right. He didn't understand the technology, but he could rely on the strong chakra to solve it violently. However, this is also a great test of a person's vision and strength. Finding the right direction is only the first step, and the capital that follows is the most important part. Open it for me. Kaboom! Jiraiya's chakra suddenly burst out, breaking through the ninjutsu formation barrier set up by Li Jing in one fell swoop. Explosions were heard all around, and Kakashi and Might Guy only felt their bodies shaken, as if they were much more relaxed. Behind Li Jing, the wall that Might Guy had originally blown up with the power of the seven gates now rotated like an illusion and restored to its original state. Awesome. Jiraiya is worthy of being Jiraiya. I didn't expect that my secret technique would be cracked by you in this way as soon as it was born. Li Jing smiled continuously, turning a blind eye to the fact that his ninjutsu was cracked, and even the ninjutsu white hair wrapped around his body seemed to be unconcerned at all. HMPH. Jiraiya stood up, and the white hair on his head gathered Li Jing more tightly. He knew that he had cracked the ninjutsu himself. The enemy in front of him was too terrible. Even an unknown self-created ninjutsu almost consumed half of his chakra. Is this another genius? What a pity. He was not born in Konoha. Looking at Li Jing's young face, Jiraiya felt a little bit of appreciation for his talent. Young man, your ninjutsu has been cracked by me, and you are under my control. As long as I think about it, your body will be torn into pieces. You have no chance. Surrender. Oh, really? Li Jing was still smiling, and he didn't take Jiraiya's threats to heart. The time has passed, so I should say goodbye. I hope we will have a chance to fight again. Jiraiya, don't even think about it. Jiraiya was ruthless in his heart, and his white hair immediately tightened and contracted. Li Jing was torn into pieces and fell to the ground. But Jiraiya frowned, and there was no feeling of killing the enemy in his heart. Sure enough, the broken bodies on the ground began to change. In just a few breaths, the broken bodies became pieces of soil. Another earth clone? Kakashi was shocked and raised his hand to cover his Sharingan. When did this happen? Could it be that his Sharingan could not adapt to the speed of the enemy? Kakashi, Asuma's injury is serious. Let's send him to treatment. Oh, okay. Kakashi came back to his senses and agreed, bending down to help with Might Guy, but his thoughts in his mind did not stop, because when he told Rock Lee and several other genin about the enemy's intelligence before, He secretly withheld one of them, which was also a very important one. In the year when Li Jing was rewarded, his record was all dead and no injuries. Jianin, 178 people. Chunin, 855 people. Jonin, 113 people. Elite Jonin, 36 people. Phantom, 6 people. No one survived. Although all the dead were traitors, the name of Kyogakushin was already well known to everyone in the ninja world. Even the 5 major ninja villages were no exception. Time passed slowly, and the battle in Konoha was basically suppressed, and Orochimaru and the 4 Otonin also withdrew the 4 purple flame formation and retreated all the way. In this incident, Konoha suffered heavy casualties. Not only did the 3rd Hokage die in the line of duty, but many other ninjas also died, and the Sand Ninja was no exception. The Kazekage had been killed long before, and now this action had no benefit at all, so it could only be regarded as being used by Orochimaru and then discarded. In the dim corridor, the footsteps of 2 people moved slowly. Lord Kigaku, although Lord Orochimaru is temporarily inconvenient, he has also asked me to take out the remaining things and give them to you. You can stay here and rest first. In 2 days, Lord Orochimaru has something to say to you in person. Well, it's up to you, Kabuto. Kabuto Yakushi had an unchanging smile on his face. He stopped and pushed open a wooden door, then invited Li Jing to come in and rest. After Li Jing entered the room, Kabuto Yakushi smiled and nodded, closed the door and left. Li Jing sat in the room and began to close his eyes and rest. Orochimaru was still sealed with the Shiki Fujin by the dying Sarutobi Hiruzen, and Li Jing didn't care about this at all. However, in the 1-month gap before the Chunin official competition, Orochimaru still put the curse seal on Uchiha Sasuke, and everything seemed to be back on track. The inertia of the direction of history is like a giant gear. Under the rotation of the gear, anyone who wants to stop it will be crushed and trampled by the power of the whole world. The higher the level of the world, the greater the backlash will be. Li Jing's expression moved slightly, as if he suddenly figured out something. Black versus white, light versus darkness, evil versus good, bitter versus sweet. Everything has its opposite. People always fantasize that there is only kindness and sweetness, but they never thought that evil and bitterness are also part of human nature. Because, if there is no human as a foundation, how can evil and bitterness exist? The same is true in reverse. If there is no distinction between good and evil, sweet and bitter, then, will human beings still be a complete existence? This is an existence that cannot be separated at all. The war in the world of Naruto is the same. Everyone is yearning for peace and mutual understanding, but only a few people understand that as long as there are people, there will be struggles. This is a fact that cannot be changed. Perhaps it is precisely because of this understanding that Uchiha Madara launched the so-called Moon Eye Plan. Although it is extreme, this should be the best way Uchiha Madara has come up with. Even the peace of the unified world is probably an illusion in his heart. Then, what is the corresponding to historical inertia? Inertia is essentially a kind of force, but the corresponding force can only be another kind of force. Is it backtracking, or reincarnation? The second level of Taiyan Shenju, gather the sea into a pill. Perhaps it is the state of nothingness of seeing the mountain as a mountain, the spiritual mind method that has always been clueless, but at this moment, it suddenly advances successfully. All this seems so sudden, but extremely natural. It is a very contradictory feeling. Li Jing opened his eyes, and the spiritual power that had been gathered like a pill in his mind suddenly emanated. The control was not in place, and cracks appeared on the walls around Li Jing. Obviously, this is also a manifestation of spiritual materialization. Li Jing smiled slightly and slowly took back the scattered spiritual power. This still requires a lot of practice, otherwise with this kind of control, you can't do anything well. Dong Dong, come in. The door was pushed open, and Yao Shido entered the room. His eyes moved, but he didn't comment on the cracks on the walls around him. He smiled slightly and placed a few things in his hand in front of Li Jing. These are 3 small wooden boxes. After opening them one by one, 3 things are revealed: a key, a ring, and a green test tube. Chapter 117 Rain Hidden Pain. Master Kigaku, everything is here. Yes, Li Jing responded, and Kabuto Yakushi automatically left the room and closed the door. The test tube contained the cell fluid of the first Hokage Senju Hashirama, and the ring was the Konshin ring in the Akatsuki organization. It seems that Orochimaru should have figured out a lot of things. Li Jing smiled slightly, put all these things away, and then began to practice again to consolidate his newly improved mental power. Mental power can also be called a person's soul power, because this kind of existence is too ethereal and illusory. It is also extremely difficult to practice, but one thing is certain, that is, it really exists. The higher the mental power, the greater the pupil power that can be used. Li Jing closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, his pupils had changed. Purple-black, mysterious patterns are located on it, perhaps because of the complete attributes. Li Jing's kaleidoscope is a 5-pointed hollow windmill shape. Li Jing's Sharingan can no longer be simply called Sharingan, because he cracked the genetic codes of many bloodlines such as the White Eye, Red Eye, and Compound Eye, absorbed and utilized all the advantages, and combined them together to form this unique kaleidoscope. 2 days passed in a flash, except for 1 or 2 roars from time to time in the gloomy base. Everything else was as calm as ever. This was a room that was even darker than the corridor. The intermittent coughing mixed with the occasional gasps was enough to prove that the person sitting on the bed was not in a very comfortable situation. You have already got what you wanted. It's time for you to keep your promise. Orochimaru, do you know what I heard from you? What? Weak. Extremely weak. Li Jing stood up and looked into Orochimaru's eyes. Otherwise, I find it hard to believe that you would treat others in this tone. Oh, ahem. Orochimaru's face did not change, and he did not move. Even the smile on his lips did not disappear. Then what are you going to do? Lord Kigaku. Li Jing suddenly changed his sharp eyes and smiled slightly. Nothing. I was just thinking, should I heal your injuries? Oh, do you have a way to heal this kind of injury? Orochimaru narrowed his eyes and looked down at his unconscious hands. Li Jing turned around and walked out of the house. When he reached the door, he stopped and said, my treatment is not free. You can consider other ways first. If it doesn't work, come to me again. Li Jing waved his hand and disappeared outside the door. Orochimaru's face was cold, but he suddenly smiled inexplicably. Price. Well, this method is the fairest and will not owe any annoying debts. Lord Orochimaru, do you really believe what Lord Kigaku said? The voice of Kabuto Yakushi came from the door, and then his figure walked into the room with a tray. Kabuto, is it time to change the medicine again? Kabuto Yakushi nodded, walked to the bed, and put down the tray in his hand. He was familiar with Orochimaru and knew that Orochimaru had not finished speaking. In my eyes, people in the world are divided into 2 types of existence. One is valuable, the other is the opposite and has no value at all. As for the one you were talking about, he is the most special person I have ever seen. Kabuto Yakushi stretched out his hand to adjust his glasses. So, in your eyes, he should be the kind of person who is very valuable. No. Orochimaru shook his head and smiled slightly. His pale face was full of an indescribable meaning, and his voice became more and more hoarse, because in his eyes, my existence has become one of those 2 types of people in his eyes. Kabuto Yakushi was shocked when he heard this. Orochimaru's arrogance is a mark deeply engraved in his bones. He can say such words to someone he has only met a few times. It is obvious that Orochimaru has a very deep impression of this person. What is the reason? The expression on Kabuto Yakushi's face suddenly became a little uncertain. The relativity of value is only for the superior to the inferior. So, I want to be the kind of valuable person in the eyes of Lord Orochimaru. But, now, Lord Orochimaru has become the Kabuto. It's time to change the medicine. Yes, Lord Orochimaru. As the rain fell, gurgling endlessly. This country, this region, seemed to be crying every moment. The spires, tall buildings, dark clouds, and water drops formed a unique and depressing picture. The footsteps on the water gave people a feeling of being unsteady. Li Jing stopped and a middle-aged ninja of considerable age came in front of him. Is it Lord Kigaku? Seeing Li Jing nod, the middle-aged ninja spoke again. Please follow me, the leader is waiting for you. The middle-aged ninja led the way, and Li Jing followed behind him. This is the Hidden Rain village. The leader should be Nagato's 6 paths of pain. Walking along the way, there were no people on the streets of the Hidden Rain village, but many shops in the village were open for business. This was no wonder. It rained all year round, and the civilians were probably used to it. The middle-aged ninja led Li Jing to a high tower in the center of the village and stopped moving forward. Li Jing didn't care and went up the tower, which was at least several hundred meters high, by himself. As early as 2 years ago, Li Jing had met Pain. It was not Li Jing who went to find Pain, but Pain who went to find Li Jing. The result of that battle was unknown to other outsiders except the two parties involved. Tilde in the dim corridor and the narrow passage, Li Jing went straight to the top floor and pushed open a room. The furnishings in the room were extremely simple, and there was not even a place for people to sit down. There was only a wide open air stand, which was very eye-catching in the room. "You are too slow," a figure on the stand spoke, and the red cloud and black robe on his body were enough to prove his identity. "Very slow? I don't see how Akatsuki's efficiency is faster." Li Jing smiled slightly and curled his lips. "You talk too much. Where is the ring?" The figure turned around. It was Pain 6 paths with the ring again. His voice was cold, without any extra emotion. Li Jing raised his hand and flicked it, and a ring flew towards Pain. Pain stretched out his hand to grab the ring, opened his palm and took a look. It was the ring of Kanchen that Orochimaru took away. Whoosh! Pain casually threw the ring to Li Jing again. "I will give you the things, but what you have done is not enough. From now on, you will temporarily take Kanchen's position." "Oh, forced buying and selling? That's not what I said at the beginning." Li Jing smiled slightly, but a strong murderous aura slowly overflowed. Pain turned around without caring, with his back to Li Jing, and said, "Kigaku, what do you think of this country?" This was an irrelevant question. Li Jing frowned slightly, but still answered Pain's words. Chapter 118 Akatsuki Organization. "I don't understand, and I have no right to speak." Pain's expression remained unchanged, as if he didn't care about Li Jing's answer at all, but continued to talk to himself. "This country, this world, it has always lived in pain, disgust, killing, betrayal, war, endless." Pain stretched out his palm to catch the rain that was close at hand. "Without mutual understanding, there will be no real peace. This world is already terminally ill and dying. Someone must stand up to save it." Holding the water drop in his hand, Pain seemed to be holding on to his own beliefs. "No, it used to be like this." Li Jing smiled and nodded. "Good idea, but what does this have to do with me?" Pain didn't think there was anything wrong with Li Jing's idea, because he had heard too many such answers. And now, Pain opened his arms, staring at the dark sky with lifeless eyes, and said, "I want the world to understand all this, to understand the pain that others have endured." "Oh, revenge?" Pain retracted his palm and shook his head slightly. "You can stay here first, and later, you will understand the meaning of these words." "What about what I want?" "I'll give it to you later, Xionin." As Pain finished speaking, white papers appeared around him, and the white papers continued to combine while flying, slowly forming a cold-faced girl with blue hair. "Take him down. From now on, he will temporarily replace Kanchen's position." Xionin nodded, and the two did not give Li Jing a chance to refute. Perhaps in Pain's view, this kind of thing is not necessary. Xionin followed Pain's lead, and whatever Pain said was what it was. Li Jing curled his lips, and did not look for discomfort, and turned to go out. Xionin walked to the door, but suddenly stopped. "Why?" The two of them stood back to back, but Pain still knew what Xionin was wondering. He looked at the dark sky outside the tower and said, "Force can only be coercion. Besides, he is not a simple person." Xionin frowned, then said nothing more and walked out of the room. Most of the members of the Akatsuki organization were forced to surrender by force. The few Hoshigaki Kisame and Dakaichi were half lured and half coerced by talking. What was the reason? Why did Nagato change his style of doing things? Xionin looked at the man in front of him with a cold face. He was not a burly man, but his eyes were slender and sharp. There was nothing special about him. Was it because of this person? How long will it take? Soon, Xionin came back to his senses and stopped thinking about those useless thoughts. Nagato's health was getting worse and worse. He didn't know how long the sky above his head would last. No, definitely not. He didn't want to think about it, but he couldn't help but think about other directions. Li Jing also noticed the change in Xiaonan's expression, but he didn't care about it at all. The plan was quite successful. Things were not important. Joining the Akatsuki organization was the real purpose, because this organization was indeed very useful. We're here. You'll live here from now on. Don't go out and wander around. Xiaonan led Li Jing to a residence and handed him a package. Then the whole person turned into pieces of white paper, slowly flying and disappearing. Li Jing slightly curled his lips, picked up the package in his hand, pushed the door and entered the room. This residence was quite large, and there was no dust on the furnishings in the house. It seemed that someone would come to clean it regularly. Li Jing put the package on a table and opened it. Inside were several sets of Akatsuki's clothes and several scrolls. The scrolls were opened one by one. In addition to the ninjutsu that several organizations learned together, there were also some introductions to trivial matters. Bang! A storage scroll was opened, and several small bottles fell out of it. Li Jing frowned slightly and threw the small bottle aside. The bottle contained nail polish, which was the unified symbol of the Akatsuki organization. Not only should it be applied on the hands, but also on the feet. Without thinking about these trivial matters, Li Jing sat cross-legged on a bed and closed his eyes. Hundreds of kilometers away, at the western border of the Land of Fire, in the dense primeval forest, it was quiet and no different from the past. But 100 meters underground, there was an unknown secret space. My lord, the experiment still failed. Yeah, a cold voice responded, but it didn't seem too surprising. This underground space was extremely vast and complicated. I don't know how many secrets outsiders didn't know. Has the survival rate of the clones been solved now? My lord, the collapse of the genetic structure is too serious, and we, just say it. Yes, my lord, it hasn't been solved yet. The owner of the cold voice did not answer, but the person who answered the question bowed his head and bent over, with drops of cold sweat on his forehead, and he didn't dare to make any other movements. Continue the experiment. Also, keep the things I give you this time properly and join the experimental stage as soon as possible. Yes, sir. The owner of the cold voice waved his hand, and the person who answered automatically bowed and left. With the light in the room, the face of the person with the cold voice gradually appeared. It was Li Jing, the same Li Jing who was in the Hidden Rain village. As early as 2 years ago, he had used a physical clone to establish a base outside. The existence of this clone was enough for him to do many things at the same time. There are too many possibilities in the world of Naruto. Whether it is time travel, or a world-destroying weapon, there are also various abilities to play with souls and bodies. They are all very valuable. The seal of the Uzumaki clan, the Yang escape of the Senju clan, the Yin escape of the Uchiha clan, the dragon vein of the ancient country of Lulin, the spear of the sky in the cemetery, and the impure world reincarnation of Orochimaru. There are too many. Even if we can't take this world away, we must build a bridge of time and space, so that we can maximize the benefits. The real body far away in the Hidden Rain village suddenly opened his eyes, and his expression was even more determined. Nothing happened overnight, until Li Jing practiced until the next morning. His door was knocked. Click. The person who came in uninvited was undoubtedly Xiaonan, who looked at Li Jing expressionlessly, and even his pupils did not reflect the existence of this person. I will only notify you once, and it is the last time. Get ready, organize and assemble. Li Jing ignored the tone of the person who came, stood up, put on the clothes of the Akatsuki organization, and walked out the door. Stop. Xiaonan stood in front of Li Jing, and didn't say anything, but just looked at Li Jing's fingernails without any other color with cold eyes. The meaning couldn't be clearer. Li Jing raised his finger, and his heart moved slightly. His nails had automatically changed color and became the unified purple-black color of the Akatsuki organization. Xiaonan was slightly stunned, then turned around and led the way without saying anything more. Li Jing followed behind without any intention of speaking. The two of them walked slowly, and it took them quite some time to reach a place that was like an underground cave. Chapter 119 Troubled Times, 3000 words. Pain, Deodara, Zetsu, Say sorry, Kakazu, Hidden, plus Li Jing and Conan who just entered. In this underground cave, the 8 people are real entities, and only Akaiichi and Hoshigaki Kisame use the illusionary body technique to appear in illusion. Baga, it's you. A loud shout broke the peace here. Li Jing looked coldly at Hidden who rushed over. It has been more than 4 years since the last fight. It's rare that the grown-up Hidden still remembers it clearly. Enough, Pain shouted coldly without any emotion. Even if Hidden was annoyed, he had to stop and retreat to his original position. Old bastard, it's that damn guy. Don't you have anything to say? Hidden was still unwilling to give up. He turned around and aimed at his partner Kakazu again. If you don't want to die, just shut up. That's enough. Pain swept his cold eyes over the crowd, suppressing all voices. Even Hidden stopped talking, because he felt that the leader was looking at him, and he might really die. Today, a new member joins the Akatsuki organization, Kigakushin. From now on, he will temporarily take over the vacant position of Sora-chan. Everyone looked at Li Jing with sharp eyes, except for Pain. Each of the remaining 8 people was an S-level rebel ninja, and all of them were at least above the level of Cage. This kind of pressure, even if the Hokage was present, would probably be soaked in cold sweat. Li Jing smiled as if he didn't see anything, which was a silent greeting to everyone. Sora-chan ring. It seems to be still with Orochimaru. The frosted voice, like a shark biting, was from Hoshigaki Kisame in the phantom state. Pain didn't say anything, but looked at Li Jing, and Li Jing raised his left hand and shook his little finger, which was considered to show the Sora-chan ring. Everyone present narrowed their eyes, but no one spoke again. Orochimaru was not an easy guy to talk to. It seemed that there were some unknown stages in this. From now on, the 2 of you should form a team first. Well, I still prefer to be alone. White Zetsu spoke, and the look he gave Li Jing was no different from others. Unfortunately, Pain's orders could not be refused by others, and after that, Pain did not even mention the matter of forming a team. The organization still lacks some funds. You must hurry up and complete the task as soon as possible. The plan to capture the tailed beast is about to begin. All preparations must be completed in advance. Yes. The meeting of the Akatsuki organization was very direct, and there was no time for arguing and gossiping. When everyone dispersed, only Li Jing and Black and White Zetsu were left in the field. I don't know if it should be considered 2 people or 3 people. 4 eyes, 2 against 2. No one is familiar with each other. Aha, your name is Kigaku, right? Then we are partners from now on. Please take care of me. White Zetsu spoke, as if he was a young man who had just entered the society. It's time to go. Compared with White Zetsu, Black Zetsu is more mature and stable. His voice is rougher, and his words are concise. Where are we going? Li Jing asked casually. Well, of course we are going to explore intelligence. We are the ones who follow up on the tasks within the organization. You don't have to go with us for this kind of thing, because we will be safer without you. White Zetsu, who has a more lively personality, answered Li Jing, but obviously because he was not familiar with him, he spoke very directly and did not mean to continue to make practical. Black and White Zetsu slowly sank into the ground and disappeared. Li Jing looked at all this and did not mean to speak, because he was happy to do so. Although he was identified as a teammate by Pain, it is obvious that Black and White Zetsu are more suitable for acting alone, and now Li Jing has no intention of participating in the fundraising task of the Akatsuki organization. He has many other things to do. Returning to his residence, Li Jing took out 2 test tubes from the tattoo space. One green and one white. The green one is the cell fluid of the first Hokage, and the white one is the cell fluid of Jogo Tenbin, Hashirama Senju, the wood release bloodline, as the body of a sage and is the inheritor of the yang release chakra of the 6 paths sage. Jogo, with a special body structure, can naturally absorb the natural energy of the outside world, so that he can run wild and become a sage. And he can also understand the language of animals. Even the development of Orochimaru's curse seal was taken from him. The key that Li Jing got from Orochimaru was the proof of the base where Orochimaru imprisoned Jogo. After reaching the 3rd level of cell control, Li Jing has discovered the next path to take. If he wants to upgrade to the 4th level again, he must absorb the genetic strengths of many others, thereby causing changes in his own cytoplasm. This is the first step, and the second step requires a huge energy supply to upgrade his own cells in terms of quantity. At that time, the fourth level of cell control can be truly achieved. Otherwise, relying solely on one's own efforts to practice, it is estimated that it will be difficult to reach the fourth level from birth to death. Poof! The test tube was opened, and Li Jing absorbed the cell fluid of Senju Hashirama into his body one by one, and the water and soil merged into wood. Although this blood inheritance seemed simple, it was actually extremely difficult and dangerous. Otherwise, there would not be very few ninjas with wood escape among the descendants of the Senju clan. But it is undeniable that this blood inheritance is indeed very powerful. Li Jing's trillions of cells kept working, calculating and evolving, eliminating failed cells one after another, and constantly moving forward with experiments. Time passed slowly, and Li Jing almost had no concept of time. After he initially cracked the true meaning of wood escape, he immediately began to crack Jugo's sage body cells. Sage body, in Li Jing's view, compared with the Senju clan, Jugo's sage body is more like a real sage body. The Ten-Tails divine tree, according to the original work, does not exist in normal perception. Only when Uzumaki Naruto perceives it in the state of sage mode can he perceive the existence of the Ten-Tails as a group of infinite natural energy. Moreover, only the energy of the sage mode can cause damage to the Ten-Tails, and other ninjutsu are ineffective. From this point of view, whether it is Uzumaki Naruto's sage mode or Jugo's natural sage body, the result is the same. In other words, Jugo's body gene is the gene that is truly close to the Ten-Tails divine tree, because Jugo himself can absorb the natural energy from the outside world into his body. The sky turned from white to black, and then from black to white. After several days and nights, no one came to disturb Li Jing. When Li Jing opened his eyes again, his temperament seemed to have quietly changed a little, less fierce, and more gentle. Li Jing stood up and moved slowly, feeling his own stronger power. Li Jing's mouth curled up a little smile. The hard work of the past few days was not in vain, and the harvest was indeed great. Strength, pure strength is nothing, and the cell vitality obtained by cracking these blood genes is the top priority. Cell vitality is closely related to energy, physical strength, and even the practice of chakra. If Li Jing's cell activity was hundreds of times that of an ordinary person before, then his cell activity now has increased several times or even more than 10 times. The 60th year of Konoha is destined to be a turbulent year. In the first half of the year, Naruto graduated, and the Chunin exam began in July. The third Hokage died in the line of duty, and Orochimaru also lost his hands. Starting from the second half of the year, after Li Jing joined the Akatsuki organization and lived a leisurely life of training, many deeds appeared in Konoha. Jiraiya led Naruto to find Senju Tsunade, wanting her to return to Konoha to serve as the Hokage, but he never thought that he happened to encounter Rukaichi and Hoshigaki Kisame, who were sent by the Akatsuki organization to carry out the mission. After a series of battles, after the matter was over, Tsunade was found by Orochimaru, who had been looking for her and injured her. After many years, the three ninjas gathered again, but this time, it was the real beginning of the battle. In October, stimulated by revenge and weakness, Akaya Sasuke officially began to defect, and Li Jing once again made a deal with Orochimaru. Orochimaru, you are getting weaker and weaker. Stop talking nonsense. I can give you what you want. You have to know what is most important to me now. Orochimaru's face was extremely pale, and beads of sweat kept rolling down his forehead. It was obvious that he was in great pain. Lord Kigaku, the things are here. Lord Orochimaru is not feeling well now. It's time for you to fulfill your promise. Kabuto Yakushi smiled and placed a wooden box in front of Li Jing. Li Jing smiled slightly, and without looking at the things in the box, he waved his hand and put it into the tattoo space. Orochimaru and Kabuto Yakushi narrowed their eyes, but did not say anything, just waiting for Li Jing's final answer. Li Jing took out a scroll and threw it to Kabuto Yakushi. After Orochimaru and Kabuto Yakushi opened it and read it, Li Jing spoke again. The things are in the name and hall of the Uzumaki clan. I will go with you because I am also very interested in the death mask and the things inside. Lord Orochimaru? Orochimaru nodded, and a glimmer of hope flashed in his eyes. His hands were useless, which meant that everything had no starting point. Moreover, he had to endure the pain of the lack of soul every day and night. He had had enough. The three of them left the base, and Li Jing summoned a large bird with the psychic technique. The bird flew all the way and headed straight for the Uzumaki clan in the Whirlpool Kingdom. The one on the bird was just Li Jing's clone. His real body had already set out to find the ruins of Lulan. If the third-level supernatural power wanted to be upgraded to the fourth level in a short period of time, it would be impossible without a huge energy supply, and the dragon vein of the ancient country of Lulan was the best existence. The scroll that Li Jing took out was also found by the nanoworms sent out in recent years. The nanoworms are controlled by the eye in the sky and can be operated from a distance of thousands of miles away, relying on the computing core of the eye in the sky. Even if thousands of nanoworms are controlled at the same time, it is effortless. P.S. Sheep Flock 170.756.165 Chapter 120 Mask of Death. Ancient documents, historical records, scrolls of secret techniques, magical bloodlines. As long as they are valuable and can be obtained, nanoworm creatures will not let them go easily. Whoosh! The huge eagle-like bird flapped its wings for dozens of meters and landed safely. Li Jing, Orochimaru, and Kabuto Yakushi all flew down from the back of the bird. This is a dilapidated temple where the Uzumaki clan used to worship the god of death. However, since the Uzumaki clan was slaughtered, this sacred place has now become a dilapidated and useless building. The power of the Uzumaki clan comes from the sealing technique, and the power of the god of death is indispensable, because the god of death is the master who controls the soul. This is like the belief in the power of curses obtained by believing in evil cults. Although the power is different, there is no essential difference. Success is due to Xiaohe, and failure is also due to Xiaohe. The most famous sealing technique of the Uzumaki clan is also the most fundamental reason for their murder. It should be here. The roof collapsed, spider webs were hanging, and dust was everywhere. Everything showed that no living person had been here for a long time. Squeak! Li Jing and the other two stepped into the house. The wooden planks under their feet squeaked as if they could not bear the weight, but none of them would care about these trivial matters, because their eyes had been attracted to a wall in the house. Death masks, with various facial expressions that seemed to be crying or laughing, and demon horns on their heads, were densely packed on them. There were dozens of them. Let's start. Li Jing stood with his hands behind his back, expressionless. Orochimaru nodded, and a venomous snake suddenly appeared from behind him. The venomous snake spit out its tongue, and its body stretched more than 10 meters, and swam towards the death mask hanging on the wall. Perception. Snakes have extremely keen perception, not to mention the results of Orochimaru's experiments. It only took a few breaths for the venomous snake to return to its owner with a seemingly ordinary death mask in its mouth. This kind of aura should be correct. Orochimaru's eyes lit up, and then he turned to look at Kabuto Yakushi beside him. Yes, Lord Orochimaru. Kabuto Yakushi nodded and put down a long cloth bag from his back. The bag was opened, revealing a Komonos ninja with a Konoha forehead protector. Orochimaru licked with his long tongue, smiled slightly, and put on the death mask with snake heads wrapped around his face. Orochimaru's useless hands began to twist involuntarily, and he began to speak incoherently, as if he was possessed by a ghost. Li Jing was still watching coldly, while Orochimaru slowly stabilized. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind burst out from behind him. Although he couldn't see anything, it still made people feel hair stand on end and terrified. Open! Li Jing shouted coldly, and his pupils had already changed into a 5-pointed hollow kaleidoscope state. Although he was a clone at this time, this clone was more like the second-generation Tsuchikage's split body, rather than other ordinary clones. The second-generation Tsuchikage's split body was based on one person and split into two equal beings. Although there were more of them, his split body had great defects. Not only would the chakra be divided equally, But even the second-generation Tsuchikage's own bloodline elimination dust escape could not be used again. Although Li Jing's split body was also realized based on his own genetic tissue, under the coordination of wood escape and natural energy, this split body could be controlled at will. Not only could it use most of the original body's abilities, but even the chakra could be freely allocated. Li Jing's cell control was essentially different from the second-generation Tsuchikage's split body and the wood escape clone of Senju Hashirama. That is, it was controlled at will, rather than a qualitative passive skill. With a flick of his pupils, Li Jing had already seen the scene behind Orochimaru. It was a phantom of the god of death that was several feet tall. The phantom should not have any emotions. He ignored Li Jing's observation and drew out his short sword. With one cut, he threw his entire abdomen away. Orochimaru's body was synchronized with the god of death behind him, and his abdomen was suddenly cut open by an invisible force. Whoosh! Several balls of energy that were invisible to the naked eye flew out of the belly of the god of death. One of them quickly sank into Orochimaru's body and merged with it, while the remaining 4 balls of energy flew into the air in the field and slowly stopped. Ha ha ha, I'm back, I'm finally back. My hands. Cough cough. Orochimaru raised his hands and laughed loudly, ignoring the serious injury to his abdomen. Lord Orochimaru. Yakushikabuto opened the mouth of the unconscious ninja with both hands and interrupted Orochimaru. Orochimaru reached out and took off the mask of the god of death, and the phantom of the god of death behind him automatically disappeared. Blood was flowing from the corner of Orochimaru's mouth. He smiled slightly and spit out his white phosphorus body. The body was like a snake, and it moved and drilled into the unconscious ninja's mouth. Kigaku. The unconscious ninja looked up suddenly. His voice had changed to Orochimaru's voice, and even his appearance at this time was no exception. I really have to thank you this time. You have already paid the reward. Li Jing's voice was flat, and his eyes were looking at the 4 energy balls floating in the field. These should be the souls of the first, second, third, and fourth generations of Hokage sealed by the Shikigami Fengjin. Orochimaru didn't care about Li Jing's indifference. He slowly stood up and walked in front of the 4 souls. Suddenly, Orochimaru's mouth curled up slightly. Third generation, look at what you have done. Everything you did is useless. Orochimaru, the deal is done. You can go first. Oh, are you going to kick me out so soon? Kigaku, I don't know what you need these souls for, but I think we can make another deal. Orochimaru's momentum recovered, as if even his habits had returned to normal, and he kept licking with his long tongue while speaking. Deal? Is there anything else on you that I'm interested in? Wood release cells, impure world reincarnation, sage test body. I seem to have gotten all of these. Li Jing's tone was flat, as if he was just stating a boring fact. Orochimaru's face looked a little bad. The deal was made twice in total, and the price he paid was too high. As for the other party, in addition to the 2 things he promised himself, he also had to treat his injuries this time. Kigaku, you haven't done the first deal yet. Akai Orochimaru, you have to understand, I just agreed, but I didn't say when to do it. Although I won't break the contract, you have to follow my arrangements. Li Jing looked at Orochimaru coldly. He forgot the pain after the scar healed. Is it the effect of desire? It seems that as long as you are a human, there will be no exception. Li Jing retracted his gaze and said casually, Orochimaru, you are nothing without your hands. You have just recovered. Have you forgotten the pain before? Orochimaru's pupils shrank immediately and his face became even uglier. Although Li Jing's words were unpleasant to hear, they also awakened Orochimaru. He looked down at his hands, and then looked up at the several souls around him. Third generation, is this the truth you want me to understand by sacrificing your life? Without hands, there will be no ninjutsu, and those so-called research and experiments, as well as those secret techniques and longevity, will also be gone. Should I cherish what I already have, or should I cherish what I have lost? I understand what you mean, but I still want to make a deal with you. Orochimaru seemed to have figured out something in a short time. Although his voice was still as hoarse as ever, it seemed that there was something more in his voice. Oh, what else do you want to trade? The soul of the third Hokage. I owe you a favor. Li Jing's mouth twitched slightly, and without much consideration, Okay, thank you. Orochimaru's tone was flat, and Li Jing just nodded slightly and said nothing more, but Kabuto Yakushi, who was beside the two of them, was in a huge wave of emotion at this moment. What did I hear? Thank you? Lord Orochimaru actually said thank you? Is this an illusion? Yes, it must be like this, it must be right. Kabuto, we should go. Orochimaru put away a special scroll, which was given to him by Li Jing, and the soul of the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen was sealed in it. Oh, okay. Kabuto Yakushi came back to his senses. He was not a person who liked to complain in his heart, but the previous scene did have the power to destroy his worldview. Kabuto Yakushi looked at Li Jing again, turned around and jogged to catch up with Orochimaru. Li Jing turned a blind eye to all this. He sealed the souls of the first, second, and fourth generations in turn, and then collected the special scrolls that carried the souls. This scroll was also made by the Uzumaki clan. Li Jing also read many ancient documents and slowly restored it according to the records. The method of making it is not difficult. The difficulty lies in the rare materials needed to make this special scroll. This material is somewhat similar to the mask material used by Orochimaru before, and the only difference is that the material of the death mask is more advanced. Reverse summoning technique. Bang! The white smoke dissipated, and the Uzumaki clan's Namian Hall once again restored its former tranquility. The Uzumaki kingdom is located on the east side of the Fire Kingdom by the sea, and Li Jing's clone appeared again, but it has crossed the entire Fire Kingdom territory and is in the Wind Kingdom desert thousands of kilometers away. Yellow sand covered the ground, the wind was howling, and the clone appeared. This was the scene that came into view. If an ordinary person wanted to cross this endless sea of sand, even if they did not encounter any danger, they would not be able to do it within a few years. The clone automatically moved closer to Li Jing, and melted into Li Jing's body in a few minutes. My lord, the ruins of Lulin are almost there. Well, speed up. Yes, my lord. Chapter 121 Dragon Vein Power. A ruin, in which the original buildings can still be vaguely seen, are several dilapidated, crooked towers, several dozen meters high, somewhat similar to the towers in the Hidden Rain village, but the towers in this ruins are older and more vicissitudes. Sir, we have arrived at the Lulin ruins. Search for the underground entrance here. Yes. A black-clothed ninja knelt on one knee to receive the order. He stood up and waved his hand, and more than a dozen ninjas with their faces covered around Li Jing all dispersed instantly. Woo! The wind was still howling, and Li Jing, dressed in a black robe, stepped onto the stone slab road of the ruins. The scope of this ruins is not small, but because of the wind and sun over the years, it is extremely dilapidated, and there are broken walls, broken pillars, stones, and sand everywhere. Swish! It didn't take long for the ninja who explored the way to return. Sir, we have found it. The black-clothed ninja knelt on his knees and reported with his head down. Well, lead the way. Yes. The black-clothed ninja stood up and led the way, and Li Jing followed closely behind. As they walked along, they saw scars left by history. The prosperity of the past is no longer there, and how long can the glory of the ancients be ignited? Earth escape. The ground shakes and sinks. A black-clothed ninja pressed his hands on the ground, and the ground rumbled a few times, and then began to sink and move. A large cave was vaguely revealed in the dust. When the dust dissipated, a huge deep pit appeared in front of everyone. The pit mouth was an irregular circle, and the diameter was at least several hundred meters long. Looking into the pit, a towering tower was located in it. The tower was well preserved, and its height was unknown, but at a glance, it was a bottomless darkness. Leave a small team behind, and the rest of you follow me. Yes, yes, yes. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Li Jing jumped down, and the 8 ninjas followed closely behind him. The pit was very dark, but one could still see the spiral staircase winding down along the wall, reaching the bottom of the pit. All the way down, the 8 ninjas moved and borrowed strength, while Li Jing's robe swayed and he went straight down without any intention of borrowing strength. Time passed slowly, and it took several minutes. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 8 ninjas landed. Li Jing tapped the ground with his feet, and the black robe on his body calmed down. The base of the tower was very wide, with a diameter of at least several thousand meters. Looking up, The pit mouth, which was originally several hundred meters in diameter, was now pitifully small. "Be on guard." "Yes, sir." The 8 ninjas scattered and guarded the place. Li Jing walked straight into the tower. There was nothing to enter and exit the base. The most conspicuous thing was the entrance to the tower. The tower was divided into 2 layers. The innermost layer was still a deep pit. There was only one stone bridge that went through the void and reached the center of the tower. A few hundred meters away, Li Jing could already see clearly the special kunai inserted in the center. The dragon vein was said to have endless power. It was only because the traitor in Lushan used it to establish an evil puppet army that the 4th generation Hokage Minato Namikaze, who was on the mission, had to seal the dragon vein power that was about to run away at a critical moment. Li Jing walked to the center of the tower, which was the seal of the dragon vein. The runes here were still clearly visible, as if the seal was only a recent thing. The seal of the Uzumaki clan? Li Jing smiled slightly, and the cells in his body moved chakra on their own, and then pressed the ground with one hand. Open. Kaka. The runes on the ground suddenly shrank, and after a certain degree, Li Jing withdrew his hand. He did not want to unseal, but to leave some gaps in the seal so that the power of the dragon vein could leak out. Hiss! The purple energy suddenly overflowed along the gap in the seal, forming a straight vertical line in the void, reaching the top of the tower. The purple energy vertical line was as wide as an arm. Li Jing raised his hand and placed it on the energy, and the dark escape in his body was absorbed and operated. Buzz! The purple energy was continuously absorbed by Li Jing's body. As the energy moved, it was absorbed by trillions of cells and transferred to various parts of the body. For a time, Li Jing's whole body was emitting a faint purple light. Absorb, operate, accumulate power, and renew. Li Jing did not store this energy, but only supplied it to cells, allowing them to upgrade and evolve at the fastest speed, eliminating useless ones and leaving better ones. After adapting to this energy, cells began to split into new cells, and the new cells began to split again, and the cycle continued, evolving endlessly. For ordinary human bodies, the number of cell divisions is limited, because a person's vitality is limited and is not enough to survive for a long time. Breathing and eating are all ways for the human body to absorb and utilize external energy to maintain life functions. But Li Jing is different. When he developed the ability to control cells, he was already different. This is a change from the deep level of genes. Strictly speaking, Li Jing's body has long been non-human. Breathing is divided into external breathing and internal breathing. External breathing refers to the inhalation and exhalation of the nasal cavity and lungs, while internal breathing refers to the exchange of energy by cells through breathing. And Li Jing, with his ability to control cells, his entire body can perform external breathing and ventilation, and even if he does not breathe for dozens of days, he will not have any major problems due to the lack of oxygen supply. It is estimated that if the ability to control cells is upgraded again, Li Jing will sooner or later no longer need the function of breathing to maintain his vitality. The same is true for eating. The energy converted from digested food is too scarce, which has no effect on Li Jing at all. He has already become a state of eating or not eating. The existence of ghosts is a kind of energy body, which does not need to eat or breathe. Li Jing feels that at this time, he has the intention to develop in this direction. With a self-deprecating smile, Li Jing then calmed down and concentrated on controlling the energy. Thinking of ghosts is just a thought jump. The two are essentially incomparable. Li Jing's original body settled down in Lulin to practice, while his several split bodies are still wandering around the world. The world of Naruto is a 4th-level high-level martial arts world. This world, in the final stage, is also a world-destroying existence. Whether it is Uchiha Madara, or the final Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto, or Otsutsuki Kaguya who has the power of the 10-tailed divine tree, these are not the existence that Li Jing can match now. Even Senju Hashirama, Li Jing at this time is not sure that he can defeat him. Li Jing's cell control has reached the 3rd level, with the power of mimicry and learning. By cracking the bloodline genes of others, he has obtained various bloodlines such as Wood Release, Sage Body, Mangekyo, etc. However, these are not enough, nor are they what Li Jing ultimately wants. What he wants is his own a unique ability that he can completely control. Relying on Wood's release, he will definitely not be able to beat Hashirama Senju. Relying on the Mangekyo, it is impossible to defeat Akiyama Dora, who has the Samsara Eye. Then, if you want to gain the entire world and build a bridge of time and space, you must take action plans to transform your own disadvantages. The original body cannot stop practicing, because force is the final bargaining chip. It has been more than 4 years since I came to this world, but this time is still too short for practice. As for the split body, Li Jing sent out a total of 3. One replaced the real body in the Akatsuki organization, and the other 2 established bases in various countries and developed ninjutsu to study historical documents. Each of these 3 clones carries chakra above the level of Kage, and each can use most of Li Jing's abilities. Because they have the same thoughts and are one, the clones can be regarded as the real body in essence. At the end of the 62nd year of Konoha, more than 2 years have passed again. Everything in the ninja world is quietly changing. Orochimaru continues to do research, and Uchiha Sasuke has also stayed with Orochimaru for more than 2 years. Haruno Sakura and Uzumaki Naruto have also studied under Tsunade Senju and Jiraiya respectively. The 3 ninjas and the 7th team seem to be the bond and grudges of inheritance. Under such a continuation, Uzumaki Naruto and others have grown to be about 15 years old. The desert is all boundless yellow sand. The dust is flying, but it can't cover up a castle located in this uninhabited place. The castle is tall and covers an area of at least 1,000 acres. A crowd of people who seem to be isolated from the world are busy around this castle without stopping. Seeing them working with a smile on their faces, it was obvious that they had long been accustomed to living in such a place and did not find it hard. In the center of the castle, a light sound of footsteps came from the corridor. The sound came to the door of a room and raised a hand to knock gently. "Dong dong, my lord, Her Majesty the Queen wants to see you," who the owner of the room exhaled, stood up and stopped his practice. "Let her come." "Yes, my lord." The footsteps of the person outside the room became farther and farther away. After a while, it returned again. From the sound, it was known that someone else had changed. The person knocked on the door lightly, then pushed it open and entered. This was a girl, not very old, not very tall, with long light red hair, which was simply tied behind her back, revealing a very delicate and pretty face. "Master Kagaku, what are you doing here?" The girl smiled slightly. "I shouldn't have disturbed your practice, but the energy in the dragon vein is running low, so I wanted to come and tell you that if the dragon vein dries up, the sandstorm in this land will become more serious." "Well, I understand. I don't need the power of the dragon vein anymore. In order to repay your family for their help, I will give you an unexpected gift." "Gift?" The girl was stunned, and then seemed to have figured something out. Not only was she not happy about the gift, but she was a little sad. "You are leaving, right?" "Yes." The girl's expression became even darker, but she didn't say anything to stop him. "Then have a good journey, Master." "Yes." Chapter 122 Tailed Beast Project. The owner of the voice was Li Jing. He turned his back and stopped talking. How could he not see what the girl meant? Li Jing was not a hesitant person. He would do things as soon as he thought of them, but he didn't expect that in just 2 years, the girl in front of him went from opposing him at the beginning to slowly starting to consider him. It seems that she has taken another step now. "I won't stop moving forward for anyone, and you? Why will you leave your people?" The girl was stunned, but more of it was surprise and entanglement. A tear suddenly slid down her eyes, but she didn't know whether it was happy or sad. Don't rush to answer, go and discuss it with your people." "I also want to leave the gifts I prepared. There is still time." The girl nodded, wiped her eyes, turned around and ran out of the room, and Li Jing also breathed a sigh of relief. "Do you like this girl?" "Not really, but she is indeed a girl who deserves to be loved, especially her singing. Li Jing likes to listen to it very much." With a slight smile, in the blink of an eye, Li Jing in the room has disappeared. The space was rippling, and when Li Jing's figure appeared again, he was already at the highest point of the castle. Li Jing opened his arms, and the strong chakra started to work on its own. In more than 2 years, by absorbing the energy of the dragon vein, Li Jing's chakra had already increased to a level that ordinary people could not imagine. After experiencing liquid and solid states, the extremely rich chakra had formed a black dam-shaped sphere in Li Jing's Danshan. Now, even the chakra he usually used has turned black. This is because the qualitative change caused by the quantitative change. The chakra has been upgraded, and after experiencing blue and purple, it has now reached black. In other words, Li Jing's current chakra is at least 2 levels higher than that of ordinary people, and this is just the difference in quality. As for the quantity, it is many times more than any human-shaped tailed beast. The stars are changing, and the world is changing. Thunder, earth, water, fire, and wind, the attributes changed and combined themselves. Strong chakra suddenly burst out from Li Jing's body, and the natural energy around him was triggered, and even the space was shaken. The wind and sand stopped, the loess rolled, and the earth trembled, except for the area where the castle was located. The surrounding environment suddenly began to change. Crack tilde boom 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 tilde. The soil was renewed, and the saplings grew and grew slowly. Water droplets gathered and flowed into a lake, slowly growing. All this was happening within a radius of dozens of kilometers. Flowers bloomed, trees grew, and water flowed into rivers. Rumble tilde. A tall and thick wall slowly rose at the edge of the forest. It didn't take long for the wall to block all the wasteland outside, forming a huge circle. Everyone in the castle stopped what they were doing, gathered together and stared blankly at everything in front of them. Dreaming, or a miracle, illusion, or reality? At this moment, it seemed that they could no longer tell. Who told Li Jing retracted his hands and let out a long breath. Being able to change the environment in such a wide range, the chakra consumed is not ordinary, and this is just gathering water, growing trees and grass, and there is no attack power. Otherwise, even the 9-tailed fox would not be able to use up the chakra consumed at once. Destruction is always easier than construction. Your Majesty, the dragon veins have dried up. It is unknown how many years it will take to recover. You don't have to guard these things anymore. Go find your own happiness. Sally, you. A group of people surrounded the girl in the center, looking at her with a smile, as if encouraging and blessing. Go, don't worry about us. Yes, we can take care of everyone. Go, Your Majesty, your people will pray for you. Go, go. The girl's tears slid down her face again, but the smile at the corner of her mouth had a hint of happiness. The girl looked at her people and received blessings and encouragement. Thank you, everyone. The girl bowed, stood up, and looked up at the figure of the man who was high up in the castle. It seemed that she also felt that the man was looking at her. The days to come will be even better. The corners of the girl's mouth showed a little smile again. Parting always hurts the heart. Li Jing hates this feeling. When the two finally left, a long time has passed. Birds carry and flap their wings straight up into the sky. Li Jing looked at the girl sitting next to him. The girl's name is Celine. She is the direct queen of the ancient country of Lulin. Although the country of Lulin has disappeared and the population is pitifully small, Celine is indeed the inheritor of the ancient Lulin bloodline. Unlike Celine, who is equivalent to a lifetime trust, Li Jing's heart is not so easily melted by others. This is not because he is hard-hearted and closed himself, but because he understands that love is too unsuitable for himself now. As for whether this girl will be happy with him, Li Jing doesn't care about the answer to this question at all. Right or wrong, do it first, and let time prove everything. The ring on his finger trembled, and Li Jing's heart moved. After explaining something to Celine, he sat cross-legged on the back of the bird. The magic body technique. Li Jing's mind jumped across space, and the next second he opened his eyes. He appeared in a dark cave. There were already several figures in the cave, some real, some phantom, each standing on the finger of a stone giant. Even Li Jing at this time was no exception. All personnel are here. The organization's next plan is officially launched. Payne's eyes swept through the crowd, and when he saw Li Jing, Payne seemed to pause slightly. Li Jing had noticed it, but did not move at all. The funds have been prepared. Next, it is the capture of the tailed beast. The one-tailed Shukaku is in the body of the Jinchuriki of the Sand Village. His name is Gara, Scorpion. Leave it to your team to handle it. Okay, it suits my taste. The eyes of the red sand scorpion radiated a cold light, and a hoarse and rough voice came out, as if it was the friction of a metal mechanism. The two-tailed Nekomata, the Jinchuriki of the Hidden Cloud Village, is named Niyumaki. He is agile and good at fire escape. Let Zhu and Nan team take care of him. Hey, Zero Zhang, Sharkface is not the only one who can use water escape. Our Sandby team can do it too, right? Boy, do you want to die? Hoshigaki Kisame looked at Hiden coldly, as if he was looking at a dead person. Why would I be afraid of you? Enough, Pain shouted coldly, suppressing the whole audience. The two-tailed beast can be captured by the Sandby team, and the Junan team will capture the four-tailed Sun Wigaku of the Hidden Cloud Village. Its lava escape is more difficult than fire escape, so you must be well prepared to capture these tailed beasts successfully. Yes. As for the other tailed beasts, Zetsu, determine their locations as soon as possible. Got it, Black Zetsu responded, and Pain nodded and looked at the shadow of Li Jing on the side. The organization's intelligence work is really not suitable for you. From now on, you should form a team with Xionin. Okay. Yes. Xionin also nodded in agreement. Nagato is Nagato and Pain is Pain. These are two different concepts in Xionin's mind. She rarely refutes Pain's orders. At most, she will go back and ask Nagato's real body. Kanchen, how long will it take for your real body to return to the base? It's on the way. Just this time. Never again. You should know what I mean, Kigaku. Okay. Pain looked at Li Jing again without any emotion. Then, disband now. Everyone dispersed, and Li Jing, who was far above the birds, also opened his eyes. My lord, are you okay? Seeing Li Jing open his eyes, Selin asked softly. Li Jing shook his head. My real name is Li Jing. Since you have come out with me, you can call me by my real name from now on. Yes, Selin nodded, a smile on her face. Master Li Jing. Selin lowered her head, a little embarrassed to call the other person directly. Perhaps it was a habit. She still preferred to use honorifics to address him. Even if this person would become her closest support in the future, it would be the same. Whatever you want. As if seeing that Selin was not used to it, Li Jing didn't care about these trivial matters. The flying speed of the bird was very fast, but it took a long time to reach the border of the rain country. Li Jing's heart moved, and a palm-sized ball of flesh fell from his trouser leg. The ball of flesh grew up in a breath and turned into a split body exactly like Li Jing. Let the split body lead Selin to find a place to settle down in the rain country. Li Jing did not intend to take her into the Akatsuki base. Da in the dim corridor, the footsteps stopped, and the two parties who met did not speak. The atmosphere seemed to be a little tense all of a sudden. Akaichi, Kigakushin. The two looked at each other. Their eyes were indifferent, but they did not give in at all. Hey, did you forget something? Bang! Hoshigaki Kisame put the Samada sword on the ground and broke the heavy atmosphere with his words. His double entendre reminded the two not to forget their respective identities, and also reminded them not to be too arrogant. The footsteps sounded again, and both sides stepped closer at the same time. I look forward to fighting with you. Li Jing passed by sideways, and his words were plainly heard by Akaichi. Akaichi did not reply, and the two sides moved further and further away from each other. Insolent guy. Hoshigaki Kisame looked back at the disappearing figure, opened his sharp teeth full of spikes and couldn't help but speak. Akaichi continued to walk slowly with an expressionless face, as if he was thinking about something. You are no match for him. What? Hoshigaki Kisame was shocked. Although he was surprised, he still believed in Akaichi's judgment, because Akaichi had never made a mistake. Let's go. It's time to do some preparations. This mission won't be easy. Without further answering Hoshigaki Kisame, Akaichi walked forward, and Hoshigaki Kisame could only carry the Samada sword and follow behind him. The two walked farther and farther, and at this time, Li Jing had already arrived at the place where Pain was. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123, Spear of Heaven. What about the last time? How have you considered it? When Li Jing entered the room, he was greeted by Pain's question, a question without any hesitation. How sure are you? Does it matter? Pain's question made Li Jing smile slightly. Indeed, he asked a question that was dispensable. Time, half a year. Really? Li Jing smiled even more. I'm not optimistic. The longer it takes, the greater the change will be. It's too dangerous for the tailed beast to be outside. Li Jing nodded and stopped persuading. Everyone has their own standards for measuring standards. Although the power of the crowd is great, it seems that people with the same goal may not necessarily come together. Okay then. Li Jing waved his hand and turned to walk out the door. Notify me when you are ready, but I may not wait for you. You can't do it with your own strength. Li Jing did not stop, waved his hand again and smiled slightly. Maybe. After the voice fell, Li Jing disappeared outside the door. Pain never looked back. Peace. It is a word that only exists in ideals. What a pity. Yahiko will never see it again. Do you believe him? A sudden female voice broke the heaviness in Pain's heart. Unlike us, his heart. I can't understand it, and I can't see the edge, but he has what we need. Isn't that enough? No one answered Pain's question, and the room returned to peace again. Even the previous female voice seemed to be illusory and no longer appeared. Li Jing returned to his residence, set up a barrier, and sat cross-legged. The news from the split body was that the cenote where the Spear of Heaven existed had been found. This matter was of great importance, and Li Jing had to preside over it in person to feel at ease. The border of the Fire Country is called the Sacred Place of Hall. Hall exists as a very regular circular cenote. As for how long this cenote has existed, it is estimated that even the old people in life can hardly describe it clearly. According to legend, the Spear of Heaven created by the ancient master was taken away by the filthy people. The filthy people hated everything in the world and wanted to use this power to destroy the world. When the world was about to be destroyed, an undead spirit accidentally picked up a fragment of power. The undead spirit was covered with red flames and took revenge on the filthy people. After 7 years of purgatory-like war, the one covered with red flames finally won. In order to prevent other filthy people from obtaining this power, the red flame people divided it into 7 parts and sealed it in a rhythm. Li Jing closed the book in his hand and smiled coldly. Filth, undead, chance, victory, rhythm, bullshit. Legends can be used as a reference, but whoever really believes it is really brainless. My lord, the villagers here have been gathered. Yeah. Li Jing nodded, turned around and looked at the mayor lying on the ground half dead. As the owner of this historical legend, the mayor originally stayed in Hall to investigate secretly in order to obtain the power of the Spear of Heaven, but he never thought that now his years of hard work will not only be in vain, but he may also have to sacrifice his life. Don't kill me. You are no longer valuable. Li Jing smiled slightly. He had already extracted all the memories of this person. His heart moved, and the mayor on the ground twitched and trembled violently as if he had a seizure. In just a blink of an eye, the mayor was swallowed up by the black smoke, leaving nothing behind. The latest type of nano-worms, using Li Jing's own black chakra as energy, can replicate, devour and control at will. Li Jing turned and walked towards the gathering place of the villagers. He had sent people to look for the sinkhole long before, but it was a pity. For some reason, he didn't find this place until today. Although this place is remote, it is not a place without a way out, but it seemed to be covered by something before. Even the sonar and magnetic waves of the eye of the sky could not detect the location here. Is it because of the Spear of the Sky? It's really hard to understand. It's like the supernatural phenomena on Earth. I don't understand Bermuda and Shenangjia. I can only blame myself for not studying them thoroughly enough. But this phenomenon always has its specific reasons and exists. Huh? Li Jing suddenly stopped and was slightly stunned. With his current perception ability, even if it is a split body, no creature within a radius of hundreds of kilometers can escape. Someone is coming and is constantly approaching, and they are 2 different people. They are all acquaintances. Li Jing smiled and didn't care about these. The inertia of history is really big. It's better to say that the Tankan was revealed by itself than to say that it was found by itself. Moreover, it has just been revealed, and the real owner has already arrived. Is it because of the intervention of outsiders that it was brought forward? You must know that the appearance of the Spear of Heaven in the original work is the starting point for Uzumaki Naruto to use the nine-tailed golden body. What I don't know is that with so much time in advance, Uzumaki Naruto, who has not even learned the Sage Mode, will explode and produce unexpected results. HMPH. Li Jing's expression turned cold. Since he entered this time and space, the history here has begun to change. He wants to return to the original drama like the protagonist. It's just a dream. My lord, someone is approaching here. It's an angel from Konoha. Well, don't worry about them. Have you collected the 7 scales? My lord, they have been collected. The black-clothed ninja who knelt on one knee took out a cloth bag and raised his hand to hand it to Li Jing. Li Jing took it and opened it. Inside were the 7 silver metal tubes representing the 7 scales. The metal tubes were different and of different lengths. Each one represented its own scale. In order to activate the Spear of the Sky, these metal tubes are indispensable. What? This ninja. What's wrong? Swish tilde. The 8-man team stopped moving forward and looked at Hyuga Neji, who was shocked. Veins popped up on Hyuga Neji's face, and he continued to stare forward with his Byakugan. However, his sweat and increasingly ugly face proved that he seemed to have seen something extremely terrifying. Ninja! Kakashi shouted, causing Hyuga Neji to tremble. He suddenly came back to his senses, the veins on his face disappeared, and his Byakugan was closed. Teacher Kakashi, ask for help from Konoha, otherwise, our mission this time will be considered a failure. What? Ninja, what did you see? Everyone was shocked. And even Uzumaki Naruto, who was usually very calm, had to calm down at this time. Well, have you forgotten the Toad Sage Jiraiya from Maibaku Mountain? Jiraiya stepped into the crowd on wooden clogs. Although he looked funny, Kakashi and others understood that he did this to boost his own morale. Master Jiraiya, what if the enemy's chakra is dozens or even hundreds of times higher than yours? What? Is that impossible? Is it a Jinchuriki? Everyone asked in confusion again. This was too unbelievable, and it was too much of a blow to them as ninjas, not to mention being shocked. It was understandable that they couldn't believe it. Jiraiya, a person who was more than cage level, the amount of chakra of such a person was already a level that was out of reach for a jonin like Kakashi. What kind of concept was it for a person who was hundreds of times higher than Jiraiya? Everyone really couldn't estimate it. Ninja, could it be that you saw it wrong? Or is it that some Jinchuriki has come here? Hyuga Neji shook his head. I can be sure that it is not a Jinchuriki, let alone a being like a tailed beast. Jiraiya frowned, but suddenly relaxed his face and laughed loudly. Haha, don't be too pessimistic. The amount of chakra does not represent everything. Maybe this person's ninjutsu is very ordinary. Hyuga Neji, look again. It's better to figure it out. Hyuga Neji shook his head again. It's useless, that person can block my Byakugan. I can't find him anymore. What? How is this? Everyone didn't know how many times they had exclaimed. In just a short moment, the continuous blows almost made them feel numb. This kind of existence, what kind of monster is it? After several discussions, they still decided to carry out the mission and move forward. As for what kind of enemy they would encounter, they could only wait and see. Boom boom tilde. There were loud noises coming from the Tankan, as if some huge monster broke out of the ground and shook the earth. The smoke and dust were everywhere, but they could not cover up the dazzling red light. The red light shot up into the sky, poking a hole in the clouds in the sky. Lord Orochimaru, it seems that someone got there before us. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes slightly. His pale face was full of coldness. He stretched out his long tongue and licked it, and the smile at the corner of his mouth was enough to make people shudder. Swish swish tilde. The 8 people from Konoha and the 2 people from Orochimaru sped up almost at the same time and rushed straight to the Tankan where the sky had changed. Inside the Tankan, Li Jing looked up at the huge monster in front of him. It was like an extremely precise instrument, shaped like a black metal millstone. with a diameter of several thousand meters. Through the gaps on it, dazzling red light shone out. Spear of the sky. What kind of existence would create such a thing? A weapon of annihilation? That's just a name that was added by humans. How can you blame the result of doing anything on a tool? Swish, swish tilde. More than a dozen figures appeared at the same time. They were the Konoha troops and Orochimaru's party that were rushing over at a fast speed, everyone on alert. Swish, swish tilde. A black-clothed ninja gave an order, and dozens of black shadows like him stood in front of Li Jing in an instant. They drew their swords to defend themselves and surrounded the newcomer. Chapter 124 Sage Mode. Li Jing turned to face the two groups of people coming, waved his hand nonchalantly, and signaled everyone to move aside. My lord, move aside. Everyone, guard the spear of heaven, and no one is allowed to get close. Yes, my lord. The black-clothed ninja knelt on one knee to receive the order, and he stood up and waved his hand, and dozens of ninjas instantly left, guarding the spear of heaven layer by layer. Is it you, Master Kigaku? Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Kabuto Yakushi were all shocked after seeing Li Jing's appearance. Orochimaru laughed hoarsely, looked at Li Jing with interest, and said, Kigaku, you bring me more and more surprises. What a feeling. It's very good. Li Jing smiled and waved his hand. Don't care about these. Are you here to become my enemy? If so, then I can only say you have found the wrong person. Li Jing's tone did not change, and he continued lightly, because I am not easy to talk to. I hate troubles that cannot be solved at once. No, no, no. Orochimaru shook his head and smiled, his pale face full of watching a show. I'm not very interested in the weapon itself, and I still owe you a favor, so you don't have to pay attention to me. This thing is not something that humans should control. Kakashi interrupted their conversation. In his opinion, whether the enemy is an enemy or not is no longer important, because the existence of such a weapon is the most deadly thing. If one is not handled properly, it is estimated that the tragic end will be the destruction of the world. Oh? Li Jing raised the corner of his mouth. Then what do you think we should do with it? Leave it in Konoha, or leave it here? If we want to destroy it, Konoha alone may not be able to do it. Seal it. Kakashi said solemnly, without any falsehood. This thing is too dangerous. The safest way to deal with it is to seal it. Li Jing nodded, as if to confirm what Kakashi said, but he suddenly smiled again and made the final conclusion. Well, the idea is good, and the language talent is not bad, but, we're done chatting. I still don't plan to give it to others. Do you want to rob it, or continue to negotiate? You enough, Kakashi. He won't do what you want. Get ready for a fight. Jiraiya interrupted Kakashi, staring at Li Jing with cold eyes, his expression extremely solemn. Orochimaru clapped his hands, his laughter full of fun. It's really a good show. You guys continue. Don't worry about me. Although I am interested in magical things, I don't want to see your own methods. Kabuto, let's stand back. Yes, Lord Orochimaru. Orochimaru looked like he was just watching the show without participating. He and Kabuto Yakushi stepped back a distance. Seeing this, Jiraiya just frowned and said nothing. Although there is still room for discussion between him and Orochimaru, he also needs to distinguish the occasion and time. HMPH. Jiraiya stepped on his clogs, bit his finger and pressed it hard on the ground. Summoning technique. Bang! White smoke rose up, and a huge toad appeared under Jiraiya's feet. The toad held a steel fork and carried a disc-shaped shield. It was obviously a person with great martial arts skills. Gumakin, another fight. Although I'm clumsy, I'll try my best. Jiraiya nodded, raised his hand and drew a line under his eye with the blood on his thumb, and then put his hands together. Bang! Kakashi, I'm going to summon two sages to use the sage mode. During this period, my hands cannot be separated. You guys delay time for me. Be careful. The enemy in front of us is not simple. Yes, Master Jiraiya. Yoshi, it's time to go. Uzumaki Naruto grinned, pulled away Haruno Sakura who had been pulling him, and started sprinting directly. Naruto Shadow Clone Technique. Bang bang! Two clones appeared and rushed to Li Jing's position with their real body. Uzumaki Naruto, who was about to turn 15, was no longer the little brat who knew nothing. Instead, He had practiced with Jiraiya for 2 years and had already become a real ninja. Li Jing stood there and ignored him. Well, it was time to prove the results of his hard work day and night over the years. Swoosh! A series of shurikens were fired, but it was the other people in Konoha who saw Uzumaki Naruto rushing forward and rushed forward to help. Uzumaki Naruto, Haruno Sakura, Hyuga Neji, Rock Lee, Ten, plus Kakashi and another Jonin, all surrounded Li Jing. HMPH, Li Jing shouted coldly, his body shook, and a strong force field suddenly rushed out, and the overwhelming shurikens were shaken to the ground, clanging like scrap metal. Rasengan. Uzumaki Naruto, who was closest, suddenly pressed the blue chakra ball in the palm of his right hand towards Li Jing. Li Jing looked at him indifferently, raised his left hand slightly, and casually held Naruto's Rasengan in his palm. Nether release. Hiss in a breath. Uzumaki Naruto's Rasengan had been completely absorbed by Li Jing. Li Jing stepped on the ground, and Uzumaki Naruto was kicked dozens of meters away before he could react. The speed of Li Jing's absorption of chakra is much faster than that of Ming Dun. During the time he absorbed the power of the dragon vein, he had already cultivated this blood gene that he had obtained before to a level that ordinary people could not reach. Konoha Great Cyclone, Soft Fist, 8 diagrams 64 palms. Papa Rock Lee kicked the upper road, and Hyuga Neji blocked the middle road with his palm. The opponent was fierce, but Li Jing was relaxed. He slapped the opponent's attack with his hands, as if he was playing with a child and did not intensify his offensive. Lord Kigaku is so free, isn't he worried about Jiraiya's sage mode at all? Kabuto, you still don't understand him, his character. He is destined not to useless waste. There is only one reason why he can behave like this. Oh? Kabuto Yakushi smiled slightly and turned to look at the people around him. Then Lord Orochimaru, why did Lord Kigaku do this? A horse laugh came out, and Orochimaru's snake pupils became brighter and brighter. Look down, you will find it more interesting than what I tell you. Kabuto Yakushi kept smiling and stopped asking questions, but turned to look at the field where the battle was still going on. The fourth gate, the wounding gate, open. Boom tilde soft fist method, Bagua empty palm. Papa tilde. The two people's attacks became more and more fierce, but Li Jing, who was trapped in the center, did not seem to be in a hurry at all. He took all the attacks of the enemy with ease. Suddenly, a smile appeared at the corner of Li Jing's mouth. Little Li, Neji, retreat. Kakashi shouted. Rock Lee and Neji Hyuga didn't know what was going on, but they still attacked quickly and retreated. Li Jing stood there, with no intention of chasing. Instead, he looked down at his hands and smiled again. Hoo teacher Kakashi, what happened? Kakashi frowned, staring at the faces of Rock Lee and Neji Hyuga. Tenen and Naruto, who had to retreat because his ninjutsu was absorbed, looked at Rock Lee and the others with very ugly expressions. Ninja, your face. Neji Hyuga was a little surprised by Tenen's question and reached out to touch his face, and Rock Lee on the side was no exception. What did he touch? Wrinkles? How could it be possible? Neji Hyuga was shocked and turned his head to look at Rock Lee. Yes, that's right. Rock Lee's face was also covered with fine lines like a middle-aged uncle. What the hell is going on here? Kakashi closed his Sharingan, frowned and said, I think it's because of the loss of vitality. Life force? Lose? What the hell? Kakashi waved his hand, opened his eyes and said, the enemy should have some kind of secret technique or bloodline that can absorb the opponent's vitality when close to each other, so this is what happened to you too. Then Kakashi teacher, can they recover? Kakashi shook his head. I don't know about this, let's talk about it after we go back. In the current situation, it seems that we can't attack each other at close range anymore. But, Kakashi teacher, that guy can also absorb chakra. My Rasengan is. Damn it. Uzumaki Naruto looked ugly, clenched his fist and swung it fiercely, and everyone was silent for a while, all looking at Li Jing who was still standing there, as if thinking about something. What a good show, Lord Orochimaru. Orochimaru stretched out his long tongue and licked it, looking at Li Jing with a more interested look, as if he had sensed something. Li Jing, who was originally thinking with his head down, suddenly looked up coldly in the direction of Orochimaru, and then returned to his previous indifference, and then turned a blind eye. Self-control is already considered a half-step to the 4th level. As for why it is not a true 4th level, it is because Li Jing always feels that something is missing. The power of the dragon vein is quantitative change leading to qualitative change, and absorbing the strengths of many genes is a basic evolution. These two are like software data and power supply. What is missing if you want to upgrade? It is the hardware facilities of the machine, and the sublimation of vitality. For now, if you want to have enough vitality to promote your own evolution, there are only two ways. One is to rely on years of practice to slowly convert the energy in the body into vitality, and the other is much more straightforward and direct. That is plundering the vitality resources of others. Sage mode, on. Master Jiraiya. Jiraiya nodded. His appearance had changed drastically. His figure was more burly, and his facial features had become rough and ugly like another person. Even his pupils had become like those of a toad, and on his shoulders, there was a toad of considerable age. I heard what you said, 2 sages. Things are a bit complicated. Do you have any ideas? Jiraiya answered Kakashi, and then explained the situation to the toad sage on his shoulders. Mother, do you have any ideas? The male toad Fukisako turned to look at his old partner. I was still cooking when little Jiraiya summoned me. How can I do anything about this? Shima Sage's voice was sharp, and he was obviously still worried and dissatisfied about his food. There is no other way. We can only defeat the enemy in front of us first, and then torture him. Chapter 125 Toad Duet. Jiraiya stood on the top of the giant toad, his sharp eyes fixed on Li Jing who was not far away. Enough? Enough, then come. Li Jing smiled slightly, stretched out his finger and hooked it lightly. HMPH. Immortal technique. 1,000 needle blades. Master Jiraiya, be careful of the enemy. Swish swish. 1,000 blades were fired in a volley as numerous as cattle hair, covering the sky and the earth. Each one was enough to penetrate stone and wood, and they covered Li Jing's direction. Li Jing put his hands together, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Yin-yang shield. Buzz. A black and white circular energy shield suddenly burst out from Li Jing's body. The shield operated automatically in the form of Taika Yin and Yang, and all the nearby 1,000 blades were blocked out. Ding ding ding. The Yin-yang shield, although it is somewhat similar to the Hyuga family's Kaiden in appearance, is very different in nature. Li Jing developed the ultimate defensive move based on yin and yang escape techniques. Now it is just a small test. It is much more defensive than the Hyuga family's Kaiden. Fire escape technique. Big Jade Explosion Rasengan. Jiraiya flew down from the top of the toad's head, and the huge fiery red Rasengan in his hand suddenly pressed against Li Jing's protective shield. Li Jing did not move at all, and had no idea of dodging. Bang. With a light sound, the Big Jade Explosion Rasengan had already hit Li Jing's yin-yang shield. Unfortunately, the explosion, impact, and shattering that Jiraiya imagined did not happen. Instead, accompanied by a hissing sound, the Big Jade Explosion Rasengan shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a breath, the energy ball with explosive power had been absorbed and swallowed up. Jiraiya frowned and quickly retreated. His physical skills didn't work at close range, and his ninjutsu didn't work at long range. So what was left but illusion? As the opponent retreated, Li Jing put down his palm and put away the yin-yang shield outside his body. This escape technique forms a cycle with the chakra in his body. In theory, as long as the energy in the body is not exhausted, the protection outside the body will not be broken. But if the attack is high enough, then the yin-yang shield should also be broken. Li Jing doesn't believe that there is any real absolute defense system in the world. If it can't be broken, it can only be said that the attack power is not enough. Kakashi, help me hold him back. Jiraiya's retreating figure did not stop. He directly passed Kakashi and the others and jumped to the back. Okay, let's go. Yes, yes. Kakashi's 2 senior ninjas, plus 5 Zhao Kaiyang. Everyone set out to surround Li Jing in the center again. HMPH. Testing is testing. Do you really think I don't kill? Li Jing's expression turned cold, and he disappeared with a step. When he showed up again, he had already appeared behind Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto, be careful. Swish. Li Jing's palm cut like a knife, and a huge wound was cut on Uzumaki Naruto's back, and the force exerted on him also threw him 10 meters away. HMPH. Li Jing shook off the blood on his hands, and without stopping, he appeared next to the unknown Jonin again while moving. Ninjutsu? Big. Ugh. Snap. The Jonin was strangled by the neck, and the whole person was lifted off the ground. A trace of green light flowed from the Jonin's body along Li Jing's arm into his body, which represented the existence of a person's vitality. Rikiri. Squeak till the Chidori sang together. Kakashi locked onto Li Jing with his Sharingan, and rushed behind him quickly, with the Rikiri in his hand already aimed at his vest. Li Jing turned sideways, and his free palm directly caught Kakashi's lightning, and the lightning was quickly absorbed. Bang! Kakashi was swept away by Li Jing's foot, and suddenly turned into a puff of white smoke. Li Jing's mouth moved slightly. Shadow clone? The real body was boom. Li Jing stepped on the ground, and the surrounding land within a radius of dozens of meters was stepped on by cracks, and then rolled and collapsed. Be careful. Ahem. Rock Lee and others jumped and dodged, and Kakashi also jumped out from the ground with a dusty face. Looking at his frowning face, you can know that he is not in a good state at this time. Puff. Li Jing casually threw the corpse in his hand to the ground. In just a few breaths of time, the vitality of this Jonin had been sucked dry and turned into a dried corpse that looked like it had been dead for many years. All of you retreat. Rock Lee and his men wanted to attack, but Kakashi stopped them all with a cold shout. The enemy's ability was too strange, and close-range attack was obviously unwise. Kakashi was not a barbarian who could not use his brain, and he could not sacrifice other unnecessary lives just because of the dead Jonin. Taijutsu was not good, and ninjutsu was not good. As for illusion, none of them was good at it, and Naruto was seriously injured. What should they do? Quack quack tilde quack quack tilde. A chaotic frog croaking sound came out, and everyone present turned their heads to look at Jiraiya's direction. At this time, he was lying on the ground, and his limbs became thicker and more powerful, like frog claws, while the two toads on Jiraiya's shoulders were puffing up their cheeks and croaking loudly. Li Jing frowned slightly. He recognized this ninjutsu. This was the frog croaking duet that Jiraiya would use when fighting pain. Then, in conjunction with Jiraiya's Sage Mode, he could use the Sage technique, Illusionary Toad Mental Binding Prison. This illusion was extremely powerful. Li Jing did not guarantee that the mental resistance of this body would be safe and sound. He jumped and accelerated, and flew towards Jiraiya's position. Stop him! Kakashi's eyes lit up. Yes, yes, yes. Sixth Gate Jingman, open, soft fist, 8 diagrams empty palm, manipulation tool, double rising dragon, super strength, heaven guard kick, boom. Haruno Sakura stepped on the ground, and a thick crack chased Li Jing's direction, and Tanshin jumped into the air, shaking the 2 scrolls in his hands vigorously. As the strips of paper rotated, countless hidden weapons flew towards Li Jing. Hyuga and Rock Lee were no exception, following closely behind and chasing after him. Although the two had lost a lot of vitality, Li Jing was just experimenting at the time. Now the two were just physically weak and lacked energy, so they could still hold on. Lightning style, Thunder Tiger all kill, Fire style, Big Flame Bomb. Kakashi and Jiraiya also used ninjutsu to stop Li Jing. The ground beneath his feet collapsed, and the sky was full of hidden weapons. On one side was a blazing fire, and on the other side was the Thunder Tiger charging. Li Jing was now under attack from all sides and surrounded by enemies. HMPH. Snap! Li Jing put his hands together, and the yin-yang shield appeared again. There was a chaotic sound of ding-dong, and the hidden weapons belonging to physical attacks were bounced off and fell to the ground one after another, and Kakashi's Thunder Tiger and Jiraiya's Big Flame Bomb were also absorbed in minutes. As for the attacks of Rock Lee and Hyuga, Li Jing didn't take them seriously at all, and he also ignored the collapse and sinking of the ground. What? How is this possible? Everyone was surprised again. What was this scene before their eyes? Not only was the enemy unharmed, but he even flew and stood in the void. What was going on? How many tricks did the enemy have yet to use? Facing such an opponent, did they really have any chance of winning? Back off. Jiraiya, calm down. The two immortals had already completed their preparations. Judging from the enemy's previous performance, they should be more afraid of illusions. Shua everyone pulled back, and the two-toed immortals on Jiraiya's shoulders opened their mouths and sang loudly, quack tilde quack tilde quack quack tilde quack tilde. The sound waves attacked, and Li Jing was shocked. The power of this illusion was indeed extraordinary. At least it had reached S level or above. Quack tilde. The sound waves continued endlessly, and Li Jing's eyes slowly began to rotate, and then became erratic and out of focus. The world was spinning, and when Li Jing came back to his senses, he was already in a transparent three-dimensional device. In addition to Jiraiya, there was a huge toad guarding each of the four directions. Haha, this illusion is really good, very practical. Li Jing smiled and looked around, as if he didn't care about his current dangerous situation at all. Kigaku, Shin, which country are you from? Jiraiya asked coldly. The origin of the person in front of him was too mysterious. Since he appeared a few years ago, too many events have happened one after another, and before that, Konoha could not find any information about this person. Haha, Jiraiya, to be honest, I quite like your personality. Unfortunately, people with different paths cannot make plans together. Li Jing shook his head and smiled, and the last half of the sentence was said in Chinese. Jiraiya's expression became even colder. Although he didn't understand the second half of the enemy's words, he thought it was impossible for him to answer him. It was too dangerous to keep such a person. No matter how important the intelligence was, it would not be as serious as leaving the enemy alive. Little Jiraiya, hurry up, the enemy is about to break free from our restraints. What? Jiraiya was shocked. How long has it been? How is this possible? Sharingan? Jiraiya looked up and saw that Li Jing had already opened his Mangekyo Sharingan. He was even more shocked. He simply couldn't believe it. Akaya, hadn't they been exterminated long ago? Kid, hurry up, it's too late. The loud scream of Shima Sage made Jiraiya dare not think about anything else. The wide blade in his hand stabbed directly at the chest of Li Jing, who was defenseless in reality. Ding, blood spilled out, and Jiraiya was even more shocked. The power of his Sage mode only pierced a layer of the enemy's skin. How could this be possible? Jiraiya clenched his teeth and the chakra in his hand suddenly burst out. The sharp blade penetrated halfway into Li Jing's chest, and he suddenly broke free from the illusion and opened his eyes. He looked down at the wound on his chest, and suddenly smiled slightly, with a cold look bursting out. You want my life? You're still a little short. Li Jing pulled back, ignoring the wound on his chest that would have killed an ordinary person long ago, and he formed a seal with one hand and pressed it hard to the ground. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.